Opening an ancient tomb. All archaeologists were shocked to see the mummy completely intact. In the 1970s, Chinese archaeologists discovered a strange coffin in Shichfeng, Inner Mongolia, China. Inside the coffin was the body of a woman wearing a dragon robe adorned with numerous precious pearls. The dragon robe in ancient imperial China was typically reserved for emperors. Anyone else who wore such a robe would be committing a grave crime and would face severe punishment, including the execution of their entire family. However, this was not the most surprising aspect. Despite being hundreds of years old, the woman's body remained perfectly preserved, with skin that still had the elasticity of a living person. When the coffin was opened, the experts were shocked by this bizarre phenomenon. The fact that she was wearing a dragon robe indicated that she must have had a noble status. At that time, archaeologists were extremely curious about the identity of the tomb's owner. In Chinese history, the only female emperor was Wu Zetian. This led to the question, could this be her tomb? However, after further examination, archaeologists confirmed that the tomb dated back to the Qing dynasty. It was very large, measuring 148 feet from east to west and 344 feet from north to south, covering an area of approximately 53,820 square feet. The tomb's owner also wore a phoenix crown made of gold. The woman's height was about 4 feet 11 inches to 5 feet 3 inches, and her hair was 29.5 inches long. She wore a gold ring and a gold bracelet, along with a pair of red embroidered shoes. Upon examining the body, experts also discovered blood marks on her thigh. However, the cause of these injuries has yet to be explained. Finally, after examining the inscriptions on the tombstone, experts identified the woman as Princess Yingxian, the third daughter of Emperor Kangxi. She was a princess dearly loved by the emperor. Her mother, Empress Yi, was one of Kangxi's favorite consorts. Despite her father's affection, Princess Yingxian was engaged at the age of 9 to Oh Boy, the son of the Balin Prince Eni-Er, a leader of Inner Mongolia. This marriage was part of the Qing dynasty's political strategy to solidify its relationship with the Mongol tribes and maintain national stability. When the princess turned 19, she married and moved to her husband's home. Following this political marriage, Emperor Kangxi bestowed upon her the title of Gulan Yingxian Princess, a title traditionally reserved for daughters born to the empress. Princess Yingxian's marriage to Oh Boy was a happy one. However, in the 6th year of Emperor Yongzheng's reign, 1728, she passed away at the age of 56. To honor her contributions to the country, Emperor Yongzheng granted her a magnificent dragon robe adorned with pearls. This honor was unique in the history of China's feudal dynasties. It also reflected her high status during her lifetime. After her death, her son built a grand tomb for her in the grasslands as a tribute to her. Despite identifying the woman's identity, the mystery of why her body was so perfectly preserved remains unsolved. Archaeologists are still searching for answers. Of course, this is not the most extraordinary discovery that archaeologists have made. Around the world, archaeologists have made countless fascinating discoveries. Let's continue watching this video to find out what those discoveries are. The incomplete remains of the princess, most loved by Emperor Qin Shi Huang. As the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang is celebrated for his countless monumental achievements, which have been passed down through generations. However, historical records about Qin Shi Huang rarely mention his children. In fact, most people only remember his 2 sons, Ying Huhai and Ying Futu, even though research suggests that Qin Shi Huang had more than 33 children. According to Chinese media, in 1976, archaeologists discovered a tomb complex near Shangxiao village in Shandong province, China. The complex contained 17 ancient tombs, and one of them only had a bronze sword, with no human remains. The other coffins were scattered, with skulls and limb bones disorganized. These tombs resembled those of ordinary people rather than those of royalty. However, based on some artifacts found at the site, archaeologists concluded that the tomb complex was likely the burial site of Qin Shi Huang's daughters, who were murdered by Ying Huhai. Subsequently, archaeologists unearthed 2 personal seals, one of which was inscribed with the name Ying Lu, possibly belonging to one of Qin Shi Huang's sons. The other seal, inscribed with Yang Si, was believed to belong to Princess Ying Yangman, a daughter of Qin Shi Huang. According to historical records, Qin Shi Huang died of illness while traveling across the empire. The throne was supposed to pass to Crown Prince Futu, but his second son, Ying Huhai, conspired with Zhao Gao, Li Si, and others to alter the emperor's will. In the end, Ying Huhai ascended to the throne, and to eliminate any future threats, he had everyone who opposed him killed. He buried many concubines alive, publicly executed 18 of Qin Shi Huang's sons, and forced 4 other sons to commit suicide. Even the princesses were not spared from death, with 10 of them perishing in this political purge, including Princess Ying Yangman. In total, more than 30 of Qin Shi Huang's children were killed by Ying Huhai. There are not many records about Princess Ying Yangman, but she was widely known as the most beloved daughter of Qin Shi Huang, not only because of her striking appearance, but also because of her harmonious relationship with her siblings. Despite this, Ying Yangman could not escape her tragic fate. When archaeologists discovered the tomb believed to be hers, they found the skeletal remains in the coffin to be severely damaged, with numerous knife wounds. A complete arrowhead had even pierced her skull. This shocking scene left many in the historical research community deeply disturbed and sorrowful. It is a testament to the terrifying nature of ancient China, where the thirst for power led people to commit horrific acts even against their own closest family members. The tomb of favoring women over men, the wife buried with gold and silver, while the husband had nothing. In the 1980s, an elderly man in Harbin, China, discovered a stone slab engraved with intricate patterns while digging the foundation for his house. Recognizing the signs of an ancient tomb, he alerted the local cultural relics department, and experts came to evaluate and excavate the site. The excavation was conducted urgently, and as expected, an ancient tomb was uncovered. At the center of the tomb was a massive stone coffin. However, the coffin wasn't carved from a single stone. Instead, it was made from numerous small stone slabs bonded together with plaster. The surface of the coffin was intricately carved with detailed designs, and the corners were adorned with silver decorations, all of which indicated that the tomb's owner was of significant status. When the coffin was opened, experts found the remains of a man and a woman, identified as a married couple. Both were dressed in luxurious attire, and next to the woman's remains was a pile of gold and silver jewelry. The woman's head was covered with a yellow silk cloth, and she wore 9 layers of fine silk clothing. What puzzled the archaeologists the most was the stark contrast in the quantity of burial goods between the two remains. Most of the burial items were placed next to the woman's body, with a large amount of gold and silver jewelry. Additionally, the woman's body had a gold and agate necklace. This was a rare occurrence in joint burials, as ancient Chinese feudal society typically placed more value on men than women. Male tomb owners were often buried with the most lavish gold, silver, and burial items, while female remains were sometimes those of a sacrificial wife. Upon examining the remains, experts noticed that the woman's body showed several wounds, with the back resembling a stabbing wound from a sharp weapon. Her neck and waist also had numerous stab wounds, both large and small. Some white substances were found in her stomach, believed to be highly toxic. The experts concluded that the woman had been brutally murdered, and her family likely arranged for a grand burial to compensate for her tragic death. Further examination of the teeth revealed a significant age gap between the two bodies. The man was estimated to be around 50 to 60 years old, while the woman was around 30 to 40 years old. Based on this information, the experts speculated that the woman was Zhao Jingguo, the 32nd daughter of Emperor Song Huizong of the Song dynasty, and the man was Wanyan Yan, the son of the 3rd emperor of the Jin dynasty, Emperor Jin Shizong. However, the reason why these two individuals died and why they were buried together remains a mystery. Despite the passage of time, archaeologists have yet to find a definitive answer. The mansion, where the emperor who founded the Roman Empire died. In April 2024, excavations conducted by researchers from the University of Tokyo, Japan, at the northern base of Mount Vesuvius led to a groundbreaking discovery. They uncovered part of a mansion believed to have been used by Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, who reigned from 27 BC until his death in AD 14 at the age of 75. Historical sources indicate that Augustus died in a mansion located north of Vesuvius, and this building was later used as a memorial to honor him. However, the exact location of this site had never been precisely identified. In the 1930s, researchers uncovered the remains of a Roman-style mansion in Somma Vesuviana, a town at the northern foot of Vesuvius, a famous volcano that erupted in AD 79, destroying Roman cities such as Pompeii, Herculaneum, and other settlements. However, the excavation project by the University of Tokyo, which began in 2002, later determined that this mansion dated no earlier than the 2nd century AD. In other words, after the famous eruption. Recent excavations conducted by Japanese researchers in 2023 provided evidence of an earlier mansion beneath the structure from the 2nd century. Scientists now believe that this mansion is where Emperor Augustus passed away. Radiocarbon dating and the analysis of volcanic pumice covering the mansion confirmed that it was still in use during the first half of the 1st century AD. It was later buried by volcanic lava from the Vesuvius eruption in AD 79. This marks the first time that evidence of a mansion belonging to Augustus has been found to the north of Vesuvius. Notably, archaeologists identified a structure resembling a furnace, possibly related to a type of bathhouse, among the ruins of the mansion. The dating of charcoal from this structure indicated that the building was inhabited during the first half of the 1st century, though the furnace had fallen into disuse after the death of Augustus. This aligns with historical records that describe Augustus's mansion as no longer being used after his death. While the latest findings provide significant clues, more research is needed before the exact location of Augustus's mansion can be definitively determined. However, this discovery challenges the common belief that the northern slopes of Vesuvius only suffered minor damage from the AD 79 eruption and were less severely affected than the settlements to the southeast, such as Pompeii. The 400-year-old vampire child skeleton with shackled feet. Here's the story. The child was buried in the 17th century in the village of Pien, near the city of Bydgoszcz in northern Poland, at what appears to have been a cemetery for abandoned souls. According to the customs of the time, locks like this were used to protect a corpse in its grave. Archaeologists estimate the child died at around 5 to 7 years old. The skeleton was found only a few steps away from the skeleton of a female vampire discovered last year, who was buried at the same time with a sickle placed on her neck and a similar lock on her feet. Dariusz Polinsky, an archaeologist at Nicholas Copernicus University in Torun, said, "The lock shows that people were afraid of this child after it died." A third lock was also unearthed in the same cemetery, although only scattered bones were found nearby. Polinsky further noted that no other child skeletons were buried in this way at the site, suggesting this may be the only known example of such a burial practice in Europe. The living used such locks because they feared that dead children could return as ghosts, especially if their deaths were sudden or unusual. Polinsky has been leading excavations at Pien for several years, and his team has uncovered around 100 graves there. 13 other graves were excavated during the most recent dig. This cemetery wasn't a typical burial site for the village. It was likely located within the sacred grounds of a church, though its exact location is unknown. Burials within churchyard cemeteries were expensive, so poor people who couldn't afford the costs had to bury their loved ones elsewhere. This smaller cemetery appears to have been reserved for abandoned souls far from the church. For example, the grave of the female vampire discovered last year, with a sickle around her neck, clearly belonged to a wealthy individual. Archaeologists found gold threads in her clothing and golden streaks on her skull, suggesting she had ingested a gold-containing substance. Polinsky and his team are awaiting DNA analysis results from the woman's bones to learn more about her background, but their findings indicate she had been seriously ill. The team also hopes to analyze the DNA of the newly discovered child's remains, as they still don't know whether the child was a boy or a girl. Polinsky said, "Dead children were feared by the living because it was believed they could return as ghosts, especially if the child died suddenly or under unusual circumstances." Although the woman discovered last year and the child found now are both widely regarded as vampires, the term vampire wasn't used during that time. Additionally, another detail is that one of the child's jawbones was green, and archaeologists believe it was buried with a coin in its mouth, a common burial tradition at the time. Polinsky and his team are still analyzing the remains uncovered in this year's excavation, and they hope to return to the site next year to see what else may be found, further unraveling the mysteries of the past. iPhone found in a 2,200-year-old tomb. In 2016, an archaeological team conducting research in the Tuva Mountains near the Mongolian border made a remarkable discovery. The object was found at the Alatay Cemetery in the Republic of Tuva, a federal subject of Russia. Strangely, the object resembled a modern iPhone in both shape and size. It was found in the tomb of a woman who has since been named Natasha by the archaeologists. The object found in her tomb has been dubbed Natasha's iPhone. Based on coins from the Five Tribes era discovered in the tomb, archaeologists determined that the iPhone dates back to the time of the Xiongnu, nearly 2,200 years ago. The object is made of a grayish-black material and is adorned with various precious stones, including turquoise, ruby, and mother-of-pearl. The object is rectangular, measuring 7.1 inches by 3.5 inches. However, as we all know, the iPhone was only introduced in 2007. So, the question arises, could this object found in the ancient tomb be a time-traveling iPhone? Or is it simply a similar object that happens to look like one? The answer is actually quite simple. Despite its resemblance to an iPhone, the object was later identified as the buckle of a belt. Women from the time, nearly 2,200 years ago, often wore belts with black stone buckles like the one discovered. Therefore, according to archaeologists, the excavation of Natasha's tomb with what appeared to be an iPhone from the Xiongnu period remains one of the most interesting discoveries at this site. Additionally, the tomb contained other objects, including earthenware pots. The site where the 2,000-year-old iPhone was discovered is confirmed to be in the Alatay region, which is also known as the Atlantis of Russia. It is located beneath the Sayan Mountains, in a large reservoir formed by the Sayano-Shushenskaya hydroelectric plant. This reservoir covers an area of over 240 square miles. However, in the summer, the water level recedes, exposing land that resembles a vast desert. When the water subsides for several months, scientists can take advantage of this to access treasures dating from the Bronze Age to the time of Genghis Khan. A total of 110 graves have been found on an island in the reservoir in the Alatay region. Another site called Terezin in the area contains at least 32 graves, located closer to the shore. Dr. Marina Kilunovskaya from the St. Petersburg Institute of Culture and History said that this site holds many scientific mysteries. The graves of wealthy nomads buried here are often submerged at a depth of 55 feet. Finding Natasha's tomb along with the iPhone is not the first discovery by archaeologists. Previously, they uncovered two older skeletons at the Alatay Cemetery. One of the skeletons, referred to as the Sleeping Beauty of the Forest, was buried with a beautiful silk robe. Initially, archaeologists believed she was a nun, but upon studying the tools in her tomb, they realized she was a leather designer. The second skeleton was identified as that of a weaver, buried with her weaving loom. The entire region is considered an ancient burial site, spanning from the Bronze Age to the time of Genghis Khan. Hundreds of years old mummy found in a delivery bag. In 2023, the police in Peru seized a centuries-old mummy after discovering it inside a delivery bag belonging to a local courier. Specifically, Julio Tizar Bermejo was the one who hid the mummy, estimated to be between 600 and 800 years old, inside the bag he used for food deliveries while hanging out with friends at an archaeological park in the city of Puno, Peru. Local police became suspicious of the bag after noticing Bermejo acting drunk during a routine patrol of the park and were shocked to find the mummified body of an adult curled up in a fetal position inside the bag. The 26-year-old courier claimed that he had not intended to sell the mummy but had taken it out because his friend wanted to see it. He said that the wrapped mummy had been in his home for nearly 300 years. In a video, Bermejo even explained that the preserved mummy was kept in a box next to his TV and described it as his spiritual girlfriend, calling her Juanita. Bermejo stated, "At home, she stays in my room, she sleeps with me, I take care of her." However, contrary to his claims, Peru's Ministry of Culture confirmed that the mummy is actually that of an adult male over 45 years old, likely from the eastern Puno region of the Andes Mountains. It's not Juanita, it's Juan. As a result, Bermejo was arrested, and the Peruvian police launched an investigation into how he had come to possess the mummy. More than a year has passed, but no information has been released regarding the outcome of the case. Secret staircase by the Nile leads to a 3,500-year-old princess's chamber. At the foot of a small cliff on the west bank of the Nile River in Egypt, scientists discovered a secret staircase leading to a tomb, which may belong to a princess from the New Kingdom of Egypt. According to initial estimates, the tomb is likely from the 18th dynasty, circa 1550 to 1292 BCE, a period of the New Kingdom in ancient Egypt. This dynasty, also known as the Thutmosid dynasty, refers to the four pharaohs named Thutmose, and it was a time when some of Egypt's most famous pharaohs, such as Hatshepsut, Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, and Tutankhamun, ruled. The tomb lies hidden beneath a small cliff on the west bank of the Nile, within the Valley of the Queens. A team of researchers from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities and the University of Cambridge, UK, discovered stone steps leading down to a burial chamber. This mysterious chamber was carefully constructed but is in poor condition due to damage caused by multiple ancient floods. The limestone and sand sediment from these floods have severely damaged the carvings and interior, making it difficult for scientists to identify the occupant of the tomb. However, scientists speculate that the tomb may belong to a member of the royal family of low rank, such as a princess from the Thutmosid lineage or the wife of one of the pharaoh's sons. Of course, this is only a hypothesis. Researchers hope that when the mummy and grave goods are brought up, they will provide more information about the identity of the occupant, as well as details about their life and burial customs during the period in which they lived. 450-year-old mummy, holding a tattered letter. Its contents move future generations to tears. In 1998, in the Gyeongsang-dong area of Andong City, Gyeongsangbuk Province, South Korea, the region was designated for redevelopment into a new residential area. As part of this plan, several abandoned graves in the area were relocated. During this process, a tomb containing a mummy and several burial items was accidentally discovered. The condition of the coffin seemed fairly well preserved, leading researchers to initially believe the tomb was relatively recent. However, upon closer inspection, archaeologists found a letter inside the tomb. Based on the style of writing in Hangul and the contents of the letter, the identity of the mummy and the tomb's age, estimated to be 450 years old, was determined. The mummy was identified as that of a man named Eung Tae. His family consisted of 4 members: himself, his wife, 1 child, and another child his wife was expecting. At the time, a deadly infectious disease was spreading in the area, claiming many lives. Eung Tae was no exception, succumbing to the illness and leaving behind his wife and children at the age of 31. When his mummy was found, the letter he had been holding tightly caused much curiosity. Upon examination, the letter, written by hand in 1586 on hanji paper, a traditional Korean paper, measured 22.83 inches × 13.39 inches. The letter was written by his wife, who referred to him as Cha Bae-won. In it, she expressed her deep emotions for her late husband. The letter conveyed the pain of their separation, her sorrow, and her sympathy for herself and their 2 children. She was now a widow, and her children were fatherless. The letter not only reminisced about the beautiful memories they had shared while he was alive, but also scolded him for promising to stay together until old age, only to suddenly leave her and their children. Despite her reproaches, at the end of the letter, she weakly asked him to return to her in her dreams. One of the translated lines of the letter reads, "Every time we lay beside each other, you always told me, 'Do others cherish and love each other like we do? How could you leave all that behind and go before me?'" Each word she wrote was filled with intense sorrow, evoking deep emotion in readers, often bringing them to tears. The love they shared was undoubtedly sincere and profound, and perhaps the sudden loss of her husband had shattered her to the point where she thought she might never recover. Inside the coffin, there was also a pair of hemp sandals from the Joseon era, also called Maturi sandals. While he was still alive, Eung Tae's wife had woven these sandals from her own hair, hoping that her husband would use them to endure his illness and recover quickly. However, Eung Tae never had the chance to wear the precious sandals. After his death, his wife wrote the heartfelt letter to him and buried it along with the sandals as a keepsake. The 140-year-old mummy of a little girl sleeping peacefully, like an angel in a glass coffin, holding a secret. On May 8, 2016, several workers were gardening at a house in San Francisco, California, when they unexpectedly came across a strange object buried beneath the ground. Little did they know, they had just discovered one of the most famous modern-day mummies. The object was a small copper coffin with a transparent glass top. When they looked inside, everyone was astonished to see the face of a young girl, incredibly beautiful, with pale skin and pink lips. She looked as if she were peacefully sleeping, not like someone who had passed away. When archaeologists arrived to investigate, they were shocked to discover something even more astonishing. The girl hadn't died recently, but had been buried about 140 years ago. The girl was dressed in a long white dress, knee-high boots, and had a sprig of lavender in her hair. Her skin and blonde hair had been perfectly preserved, and the red rose she was holding was still visible through the glass coffin. The nameless grave was draped with purple velvet. The story of the nameless grave quickly gained attention, with the media highlighting that while mummies preserved in such perfect condition were rare, they had been discovered before. However, one as perfectly preserved as this little girl was extremely uncommon. Researchers immediately began working to uncover her identity. Alyssa Davey, a geneticist and founder of the Garden of Innocence organization, shared that they made a breakthrough when they found an old cemetery map in the University of California, Berkeley Library. After a year of research, they identified the girl as Edith Howard Cook, the daughter of a businessman. The Cook family was well respected in society at the time, so it was no surprise that Edith had been buried in such noble attire. Researchers even found living descendants of the family and confirmed that their DNA matched the strand of hair taken from Edith's remains. Edith had passed away just 2 months after her 3rd birthday. She died on October 13, 1876, exactly 140 years before her remains were unearthed. The cause of death was believed to be severe malnutrition. Initially, Edith's tiny coffin was buried in the Richmond District Cemetery, as was customary. However, in the 1920s, the cemetery was moved. Edith should have been one of the 30,000 graves transferred to Colma, but perhaps due to an oversight, her grave was left behind. Erica Carner, the homeowner where the glass coffin was found, was the one who had the authority to decide what to do with the remains. In July 2017, after the necessary studies were completed, the Carner family reburied Edith Howard Cook at the Greenlawn Memorial Park in Colma. To this day, Edith Howard Cook remains one of the most perfectly preserved mummies ever discovered. While it's not the first time a mummy has been found in excellent condition after centuries, it is incredibly rare to find one as perfectly preserved as Edith. The method of embalming used for Edith remains a mystery, though after much debate and research, the most widely accepted theory suggests 2 factors that helped preserve the body. First, the copper coffin, a rare material that doesn't degrade easily underground, and second, the coffin was sealed so tightly that no air could enter. However, it's also possible that the ancient people had a secret embalming technique that has yet to be uncovered by modern science. The forgotten world of shipwrecks. Archaeologists in the Black Sea made a startling discovery, so unbelievable that they themselves had to declare, "We can't believe our eyes," saying, "A forgotten world of shipwrecks has just been rediscovered." Over 40 shipwrecks have been lying motionless at a depth of more than 2,600 feet at the bottom of the Black Sea for over 1,000 years. The masts and hulls are still relatively intact, even after at least 7 or 8 centuries submerged in the ocean's darkness. Due to the lack of oxygen and the cold water temperatures at such depths, the usual decomposition of wood from moisture has not occurred. These newly discovered shipwrecks date back to at least the 13th and 14th centuries. Previously, archaeologists had mostly gathered information about maritime trade activities from the 15th and 16th centuries, with important discoveries such as the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus's journey to the Americas. However, shipwrecks from ancient times, still in such an ideal state of preservation, had never been found before. The Black Sea had once been known as an important maritime route for trade centuries ago. Grains, leather, livestock, textiles, food, and more were transported across this route. For European merchants in the past, the Black Sea allowed them to enter the northern branch of the Silk Road, where they would buy silk, satin, musk, perfumes, spices, jewelry, and gemstones. The tolls collected in the Black Sea were so profitable that during the 13th and 14th centuries, the cities of Venice and Genoa went to war over disagreements about the management of this maritime route. Archaeologists believe that there are tens of thousands of shipwrecks scattered across the Black Sea region, as the sea route was once very busy. Due to the low oxygen levels in the water, anything that sank to the bottom is almost certainly preserved naturally by the ocean without rotting away. The mummified couple, covered in gold, resting together for 2,000 years in an ancient temple. During an excavation at the archaeological site in the ancient city of Taposiris Magna on the Nile Delta in Egypt, archaeologists were astonished to discover two incredibly special mummies, believed to belong to two high-ranking individuals from the legendary Queen Cleopatra's reign in ancient Egypt. The mummies were carefully preserved and covered in gold leaf, a luxury reserved for only the highest-ranking individuals in ancient Egyptian society, indicating that they may have been close to Cleopatra. According to researchers, this couple might have been priests who played a crucial role in maintaining the power of Queen Cleopatra and her lover Mark Antony. The couple's tomb is located deep within an ancient temple. However, the tomb structures were not sealed, and the mummies have been water damaged over the course of 2,000 years and are no longer intact. At the same site, researchers also discovered 200 coins bearing Cleopatra's name and her likeness. Since the famous queen of the ancient world committed suicide in 30 BCE, her tomb has remained a hidden secret somewhere in Egypt. Over the centuries, there have been many rumors about the location of the tomb of the queen and her lover, General Mark Antony. In 2019, there were rumors that Egypt was about to uncover the tomb of Cleopatra and her lover. However, most of the information regarding the tomb of the famous couple was inaccurate. Recently, after finding the mummies of the couple, the research team believes that excavations at the ancient city of Taposiris Magna will soon reveal Cleopatra's final resting place. Although researchers have been excavating this site since 2005, only a small portion of the vast area has been uncovered so far. Dr. Glenn Godinho, a senior lecturer in Egyptology at the University of Liverpool, said, "Although covered in 2,000 years of dust, these mummies are relatively well preserved. They are covered in gold leaf, showing that they were important members of society." On the gold leaf covering one of the mummies, the image of a scarab beetle, symbolizing rebirth, can still be seen. The prominent nose and cleft chin of the queen depicted on the coins show that she was not as beautiful as the actresses who portrayed her on screen, most notably Elizabeth Taylor in the 1963 film. Interestingly, the temple where the noble couple is buried is located very close to the city of Alexandria, the capital of Egypt during Cleopatra's time. Having two important figures guarding this temple could suggest that Cleopatra and Mark Antony may have been buried nearby. Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a scholar from the Dominican Republic, is currently leading the excavation at the Taposiris Magna Temple. After over 14 years of working at the site, Dr. Martinez and her colleagues are more convinced than ever that Cleopatra's tomb will soon be discovered nearby. Cleopatra's tomb is believed to have been built in 30 BCE, alongside her lover Mark Antony. Sadly, despite extensive efforts, modern archaeologists have not yet been able to pinpoint the exact location of the famous couple's tomb. The mysterious village, sunken beneath the ancient lake. Deep beneath the turquoise waters of Lake Ohrid, known as the Pearl of the Balkans, scientists have recently discovered a village. This may be the site of the earliest human settlement in Europe, but the question of why it was hidden inside a fortress of spikes is something researchers are still trying to understand. According to archaeologists, a stretch of the Balkan lakeshore in Albania was once home to settlers about 8,000 years ago. The village, with its raised houses, has become the oldest village ever discovered in Europe. Radiocarbon dating indicates that this settlement dates back to around 6,000 to 5800 BCE. The settlement is believed to have been home to about 200 to 500 people, living in stilt houses built on the lake or in areas frequently flooded by rising waters. During the archaeological excavation, the research team uncovered some astonishing secrets. They found evidence that the settlement was protected by thousands of flat wooden spikes arranged as a barrier. To build this defense, the settlers must have cut down an entire forest. However, the researchers have not yet figured out why the villagers needed to protect themselves so firmly. They estimate that around 100,000 spikes were planted into the lake bed. Lake Ohrid is one of the oldest lakes in the world, having existed for over 500,000 years. Thanks to skilled divers, archaeologists have been able to search for artifacts on the lake's floor, discovering many pieces of petrified wood and valuable oak fragments. The analysis of tree rings has helped the research team reconstruct the daily life of the settlers and gain valuable insights into the climate and environmental conditions of the time. The 300 Ancient Monsters Tomb, containing life-saving elixirs for humans. An ancient cypress forest, dating back to the heyday of the extinct Neanderthal species, was once submerged beneath Mobile Bay in the Gulf of Mexico. It wasn't until Hurricane Ivan in 2004 that it was partially exposed after being buried for 60,000 years. In December 2019, a team of scientists from the University of Utah and Northeastern University, funded by NOAA, returned to the forest. In 2020, after several months of research, they revealed extraordinary findings. According to Dr. Francis Choi, the lead scientist at the Maritime Science Center at Northeastern University, they examined organisms buried within the wood and discovered 300 ancient creatures. These were small, bizarre, but incredibly valuable monsters. One of these species includes ancient shipworms. They also identified 100 species of bacteria from these creatures, many of which were new. They successfully decoded the DNA of 12 strains and discovered that these bacteria have the potential to produce antibiotics, painkillers, and groundbreaking cancer drugs. Additionally, many ancient viruses found in the forest could defeat modern viruses, potentially leading to highly effective biological remedies. Their expedition has been interrupted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the researchers have stated that they plan to continue using unmanned underwater robots to map the forest in 3D and then return in person next year. Notably, the research team believes that this eerie forest may harbor many strange plants and animals that could be used in industries such as textiles, paper production, food, renewable fuels, animal feed, and chemical manufacturing, all of which are key to modern life today. Gateway to the underworld of the ancient Maya. In 2021, divers in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula discovered a canoe and skeletal remains deep inside an underwater cave at a depth of 15 feet. In total, archaeologists found 38 sets of bones, including human foot bones, likely from a woman, along with bones from an armadillo, a dog, a turkey, and an eagle. The abundance of armadillo bones and the presence of human foot bones led researchers to conclude that the canoe may have been used by the Maya in a ritual and deliberately placed in the cave. This idea is based on the fact that armadillos are skilled swimmers and can hold their breath underwater. Researchers believe these items may have been meant for use in the afterlife, as the Maya believed that caves and cenotes, natural wells, were gateways to the underworld. Alexandra Biar, an archaeologist from the French National Center for Scientific Research, explained, "There are images in Maya pottery where the armadillo appears as the stool of the gods. The canoe itself provides additional evidence that it was used as part of a sacred ritual. When the canoe was first discovered during an excavation for a railroad project, archaeologists estimated its age to be between 830 and 950 AD. However, new carbon dating analysis shows that the wood of the canoe dates back to the 16th century. The 3,500-year-old unfinished monumental stone obelisk, never erected. There are about 30 ancient Egyptian-style obelisk stone towers around the world, with the tallest being the Lateran obelisk in Rome, which stands at 150 feet tall. However, there is an even more massive monument that many people have never heard of, likely because it was never erected. This is the unfinished obelisk, one of the most important archaeological discoveries of ancient Egypt to date. It is also the heaviest single monument ever attempted by the ancient Egyptians. According to science, the unfinished obelisk was discovered in the early 20th century in a quarry in Aswan, southern Egypt. This 3,500-year-old structure is embedded in a giant granite block, seemingly abandoned over time. Hatshepsut, the fifth pharaoh of Egypt's 18th dynasty, ordered the construction of the unfinished obelisk between 1473 and 1458 BCE as a supplementary obelisk to the Lateran obelisk. During the construction process, something went wrong, causing large cracks in the stone that are still visible today. This rendered the monument unusable as an obelisk. Nearby, experts also found part of the base of the obelisk, which had been partially carved and might have been intended to help keep the obelisk upright. Had the unfinished obelisk been erected, it would have stood about 1/3 taller than any other obelisk ever discovered. weighing up to 1,290 tons and standing at about 138 feet tall. Even moving the unfinished obelisk off the ground would have been an incredible engineering feat, let alone erecting it. This has led scientists to question how the ancient Egyptians were able to handle such a massive granite block, and this remains one of the enduring mysteries challenging archaeologists today. Archaeologists wept when they opened a 5,000-year-old coffin and saw this horrifying sight. A strange and incredibly impressive archaeological discovery has just been made by experts at Wangzhuang, Yongcheng, Henan Province, China. An ancient tomb dating back about 5,000 years, large and magnificent, along with over 350 valuable artifacts excavated from the site. But what makes this tomb one of the most remarkable discoveries in recent years? The tomb is believed to be the final resting place of a highly important figure, possibly an emperor of an ancient civilization. With its impressive size, measuring between 14.8 and 15.7 feet in length and 11.4 to 12.1 feet in width, this tomb suggests a special burial site for a person of great influence in society. However, when the experts opened the coffin, they encountered a strange and puzzling mystery. Inside, there were no intact remains, only a few fragments of toe bones. So, what caused the disappearance of this person's body? This question remains unanswered to this day. Despite the absence of most of the skeleton, the tomb still preserves a rich collection of grave goods. More than 200 pieces of pottery, nearly 200 small jade ornaments, along with many bone tools and animal remains, were found scattered around the coffin. These items not only reflect the refined culture of the Dawanku period, but also offer a glimpse into the life and beliefs of ancient people. Jade, a precious material symbolizing luxury and power, was used to create small, beautiful pieces of jewelry, placed inside and around the coffin, likely to serve the soul of the deceased in the journey to the afterlife. A particularly noteworthy discovery made by archaeologists was the presence of several ritual stone blades. What is intriguing is that these blades were deliberately broken, raising several theories about the burial rituals. These items could be linked to worship or sacrifice rituals, further adding to the mystery of the tomb. However, not everything found in this tomb is intact. Traces indicate that the tomb had been visited by tomb robbers. Valuable artifacts were taken, and the body of the deceased may have been moved or removed as well. This raises the question: was this tomb once the property of such an important figure that it became a target for tomb robbers long ago? This tomb is believed to be one of the largest and most richly endowed tombs discovered from the Dawanku period, a prominent culture in the late Neolithic era, from 4000 to 2600 BC. People of this period achieved great success in pottery production, creating exquisite products fired with advanced techniques. The discovery of pottery along with bone and stone tools proves that the residents of this period had a rich cultural foundation, with deep knowledge of technology and beliefs. So, whose tomb is this really? Could it be the final resting place of an ancient emperor or another powerful figure? Are these beautiful grave goods a message for future generations, or simply necessary items for an eternal life? The answer remains a mystery, but it is certain that the Wangzhuang tomb will continue to attract the attention of archaeologists and history enthusiasts. But that's not all I want you to see. In today's video, there are many more fascinating and impressive archaeological discoveries to explore. Let's continue our journey of discovery right now. The shroud covering the body of Empress Dowager Cixi. When we mention the history of the Qing dynasty in China, one of the most powerful figures that cannot be overlooked is Empress Dowager Cixi. She is not only famous for her strong influence in the imperial court, but also for her far-reaching decisions, one of which was the preparation of an incredibly grand tomb for herself. However, behind the grandeur of this tomb lies a mysterious story involving priceless treasures and shocking tomb robberies that remain an unsolved mystery to this day. In 1908, when Empress Dowager Cixi passed away, she was buried at the Dingdong Mausoleum, located in the Ma Lan mountain region in the town of Xuanhua, Hebei Province, China. This was no ordinary resting place. It was a magnificent tomb filled with valuable treasures that Cixi had prepared for the afterlife. Golden coffins, precious items made of jewels, pearls, and other rare artifacts were meticulously arranged, creating a mysterious world that no one could have predicted would become a major target for tomb robbers. This shocking event took place in July 1928, when Sun Dianying, a notorious warlord during the Republican period, and his gang of tomb raiders broke into the tomb of Empress Dowager Cixi. They stole the valuable treasures, leaving behind traces that made people ponder. However, Sun Dianying's group left behind a shroud that covered the body of Empress Dowager Cixi. The shroud, which measures about 10.5 feet square, is embroidered with 25,000 characters from the Dharani Sutra, all stitched with shimmering golden threads. Furthermore, the shroud was adorned with 820 beautiful pearls. Strangely, despite the tomb robbers taking all the pearls, this precious shroud was left intact, with no damage. This raises the question, why was this treasure left behind? Was it because they didn't recognize the historical and cultural value of the shroud? Or is there another reason that we still cannot explain to this day? It's hard to answer, but due to its uniqueness, the shroud covering the body of Empress Dowager Cixi still exists today. Conservation experts are currently working on restoring and preserving this valuable cultural and historical artifact. If we say that this shroud symbolizes the power and luxury of Empress Dowager Cixi and stands as a vivid witness to the mysterious stories of Chinese history, I don't think I'm exaggerating, do I? The coffin of a one-year-old boy that keeps opening. If you believe in mysterious stories and unexplainable phenomena, the story of El Angelito, the little boy who had the ability to make his coffin lid open after death, will make you reconsider the strange things we can't explain with ordinary reasoning. The story began 50 years ago when a boy named El Angelito died from meningitis, just a few weeks before his first birthday. He was buried in a small cemetery in Banda, Florida, a remote town in northwestern Argentina. However, something strange happened when, after just 7 years of being buried, the ground covering El Angelito's grave was suddenly overturned, as if someone was trying to escape from the burial site. Initially, his parents thought this was due to heavy rainstorms, but when the weather returned to normal, this phenomenon continued to occur, with no reasonable explanation. El Angelito's mother shared, "We thought that our son didn't want to be buried in the dark. He wanted to see the light. He wanted to see people." So the family decided to replace the coffin lid with a glass one, thinking it would allow their son to see the world around him. It was a strange but very reasonable decision given the incredible events that continued to unfold. However, the miracle didn't stop there. El Angelito became a phenomenon, attracting the attention of thousands of people from all over Argentina. After 50 years, the boy's body remained surprisingly intact, not decomposing like any other body. Another phenomenon that caused a stir was that El Angelito's coffin lid continued to open on its own, as if the boy was demonstrating some supernatural power. El Angelito became a mysterious symbol, and many people believed he had the ability to perform miracles. Stories of miracles occurring after people visited El Angelito's tomb spread continuously. One such story is from a man named Daniel Saavedra, who shared that after praying by the boy's grave, he fully recovered from a severe pancreatic disease. Many others also shared their miraculous experiences when touching El Angelito's body, and many people believed that just being near the boy's grave would bring them good luck or cure their illnesses. Today, although no one can explain this strange phenomenon, the story of El Angelito continues to attract the attention of those who believe that this little boy might be capable of performing miracles. Whether you believe it or not, El Angelito has become an inseparable part of Argentina's legends. Of course, this story also raises a big question. Do miracles really exist that science cannot yet explain? Does El Angelito possess supernatural powers, or is this simply a mysterious story that still remains unexplained? What do you think about this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. The Valley of the Kings, the burial place of ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Much of what we know about ancient Egyptian civilization comes from the mysterious tombs and the remarkable preparations the ancient Egyptians made for death, particularly for royal family members. From golden sandals to luxurious coffins, the handcrafted items of the ancient Egyptians can now be admired in many museums around the world. However, this has not diminished the interest of visitors, who still wish to see these timeless, mysterious tombs in person. The place that houses the most royal Egyptian tombs that still exist today is the Valley of the Kings. One of the most famous archaeological sites in the world, the Valley of the Kings is located near Thebes and contains 63 tombs of pharaohs and nobles. The valley was formed after Egypt was unified, and the ancient civilization entered the New Kingdom period, around 1550 BCE to 1077 BCE, a time of incredible wealth and prosperity. It was during this period that pharaohs sought out locations and built elaborate, grand, and intricate tombs to demonstrate their power and influence, eventually establishing the Valley of the Kings. This is the burial site for most of the famous pharaohs of this powerful empire, such as Tutankhamun, Seti I, and Ramesses II. In addition, the valley also serves as the burial ground for queens, royal family members, and high-ranking officials of ancient Egyptian dynasties. The 63 tombs are scattered across two valleys, the East Valley and the West Valley. The isolated location was key in protecting the tombs from tomb robbers. The tombs were carved into the rock faces, using natural features to create differences in size and complexity among the tombs. Some tombs are very elaborate with up to 120 chambers, while others consist of a single room. Inside the tombs are rare items that were specifically prepared for the pharaohs, queens, and other important individuals, which held great value at the time to signify the power of the deceased. This also aligns with the ancient Egyptian belief in preparing all the necessary items for the deceased to continue their life in the afterlife. Although the Valley of the Kings has been looted by tomb robbers, the interior decorations still reflect the wealth and power of the individuals buried there. The interior decoration of the tombs also gives us a glimpse into the burial rituals and beliefs of ancient Egyptians. The mummies were carefully wrapped using the most advanced technology to preserve their bodies intact, ensuring that their souls would return after 5,000 years. The largest tomb in the valley belongs to the sons of Ramesses II, who reigned from around 1303 BCE to 1213 BCE. Although only partially excavated, many archaeologists believe that at least 4 of the 52 sons of the pharaoh were buried there. As of 2006, this tomb had 200 corridors and chambers, making it the most complex structure in the area. However, like most tombs in the valley, it too was looted, and much of its burial goods were taken. The most famous tomb is that of King Tutankhamun. However, this tomb is quite small. Archaeologists speculate that because the young king, who died at around 18 or 19 years old, passed away unexpectedly, the tomb had to be hastily constructed in a short period of time. Nevertheless, the tomb remains one of the most important archaeological discoveries in the study of ancient Egypt due to the immense collection of burial goods it contained, which were largely undisturbed by tomb robbers. During the excavation and discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb, many mysterious events occurred, such as illnesses and deaths among those involved. This led to the rise of the curse of the pharaohs associated with King Tut's tomb, leading many to believe that no one should go near it, not even tomb robbers. The Renswuren Mummy, the mystery of the death of the ancient man. When it comes to archaeological mysteries, one cannot overlook the strange story of the Renswuren mummy, a discovery that shocked the world in 1871 in a swamp near the city of Kiel, Germany. This is one of the rare ancient mummies that has been almost perfectly preserved, thanks to the unique conditions of the swamp environment. So, what makes this mummy so special? And what mysteries surround the death of this man? When the Renswuren mummy was found, it attracted attention not only because of its remarkable preservation, but also due to the strange features on the body. Experts conducted various tests and detailed analyses to uncover questions about the man's age, lifestyle, and the cause of his death. The research results revealed that the mummy belonged to a man who lived around the 1st or 2nd century BCE, more than 2,000 years ago. What was even more surprising was his age at the time of death. Based on bone analysis, experts determined that he died between the ages of 40 and 50, which was considered an average age for humans during that period. However, his death was not natural. It was clearly the result of a violent act. Evidence of this was found on the skull, where scientists discovered a severe wound with a triangular hole, possibly the result of a strong blow to the head. These injuries not only indicated that this man was murdered, but they also suggested that his death was likely accompanied by extreme pain. The powerful blow to his head caused serious damage, leading to his death. This not only piques curiosity about ancient execution methods, but also raises questions about the circumstances and context that led to his tragic fate. From this discovery, experts are even more convinced that the Renswuren mummy is not just an archaeological artifact, but likely a vivid witness to the past, revealing secrets about life and death in ancient times. The Capuchin Catacombs. The Capuchin Catacombs in Palermo, Italy, are often regarded as a treasure trove, holding the largest collection of mummies in Europe, with about 1,284 mummified bodies, some of which are remarkably well preserved. Upon entering, the catacombs are cool and damp, with the faint smell of decaying materials in the air. Dust swirls around the space as an eerie silence envelops the entire area, illuminated by dim light. This is the place where many bodies were preserved, paid for by their relatives. The skeletal remains are arranged in an orderly manner on the walls of the catacombs, in various positions. Through their clothing, one can glean details about their lives. For example, monks are dressed in robes, soldiers in uniforms, and women's dresses reflect the fashion of the time. Meanwhile, mummified children are dressed in the finest clothing. One of the most famous mummies in the Capuchin catacombs is Rosalia Lombardo, a 2-year-old girl who died of pneumonia due to the Spanish flu in 1920. Her father enlisted the help of Alfredo Salafia, a renowned chemist of the time, to preserve his daughter. This is considered one of the best preserved mummies in the world. After many years, it seems that Rosalia's skin still retains a rosy hue, and her hair, adorned with a yellow ribbon, gives her the appearance of peacefully falling asleep. Among the 163 mummified children, there is very little information about their identities or the causes of their deaths. Dr. Kirsty Squires from Staffordshire University, who leads the X-ray Mummy Examination Project, is expected to study them for 2 years to determine the condition of the children and the mummification practices used. Dr. Squires has mentioned that most of these children came from middle-class families of the time, but the reasons for their tragic deaths remain a mystery. The mysterious village appears beneath the sea in the haunted forest. A research team from the UK dove deep into the North Sea, a body of water on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean located between the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Their 11-day expedition uncovered a ghostly petrified forest buried thousands of years beneath the seabed in an area known as Doggerland. The surprises didn't end there. When they collected sediment samples from the mysterious forest, they found some very strange traces. Upon further excavation, they brought up larger specimens from the seabed. To their astonishment, they discovered signs of human presence from the Stone Age. In other words, 10,000 years ago, beneath the ghostly forest visible on the seabed today, there was a prehistoric village where our ancestors lived by hunting and gathering. This discovery explained the many eerie artifacts that fishing boats and dredgers in the area have unintentionally caught in recent years, such as ancient human bones, stone tools, flint, spearheads, and artwork carved into bones. The reason why the mysterious village appears deep beneath the sea is also explained. 12,000 years ago, Doggerland was not a sea. It used to be a vast plain that existed between the eastern coast of England and mainland Europe. Ancient Doggerland had forests, a massive salt marsh, abundant wild animals, and human communities. However, rising sea levels gradually transformed Doggerland into a sea, which is why we now find a mysterious village deep under the seabed. The 2,000-year-old tomb of the Guardian of Hell. In October 2023, a 2,000-year-old tomb was discovered in Giugliano, Naples, Italy. And what makes it particularly fascinating is that it contains a fresco depicting Cerberus, the legendary three-headed dog in Greek mythology, who is considered the guard dog of Hades and was tasked with guarding the gates of the underworld. As a result, experts have confidently named the Tomb of Cerberus, making its story even more mysterious and intriguing. The fresco depicts Cerberus's final moment, when he was captured by Heracles, the famous hero in Greek mythology, marking the completion of one of the 12 greatest labors in history. This powerful image is associated with a legendary feat, but what is strange is that the person buried in this tomb is not a mythological figure or a mythical creature, but a human being. So why does the tomb feature the symbol of Cerberus? And what connection does the deceased have with this three-headed dog? As experts continued to excavate and study the tomb, they discovered 2 stone coffins placed inside. One of them was opened using a tiny camera, allowing archaeologists to avoid damaging the body inside. The result was the discovery of a well-preserved body. The corpse was covered with a shroud, and surrounding it were several burial goods, including unguentaria, small bottles containing oils and perfumes, along with a strigil, a tool used in ancient Roman bathing rituals. With these findings, researchers decided to open the coffin to conduct a more detailed study of the body and the accompanying artifacts. What they are eagerly anticipating is uncovering the identity of the person buried here and their connection to Cerberus. Could this be the tomb of someone associated with ancient Greek rituals? Or is it simply an intriguing coincidence that the deceased was buried in a tomb with such mystical symbols? This tomb promises to reveal many secrets about the life, beliefs, and rituals of ancient Romans. The combination of the burial goods and the fresco of Cerberus is not only a cultural artifact, but also an unsolved question about the relationship between humans and mythology during this period. Who was the owner of this tomb? Did mythical rituals truly influence the lives of ancient Romans? These questions will surely be explored further by researchers in the future. Stay tuned for updates. The most eerie fossilized forest emerges in New York. A vast array of giant and bizarre fossilized trees from the era when Earth began to transform into a green planet has been uncovered near an old quarry. With an age of 386 million years, this is the oldest fossil forest ever unearthed. This eerie, deformed ghost forest was discovered in Cairo, a town in New York State, covering an area as large as 32,292 square feet. The trees in this fossil forest are massive specimens with gigantic, odd-looking roots. This root form is characteristic of Earth's early plant life, which began to change the way plants collected water and nutrients from the soil, leading to the growth of enormous, woody trees. They also show the early stages of the development of the ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Thanks to these trees, Earth's continents gradually began to change colors, transforming from a treeless planet into one with vast green expanses covering most of the land. This discovery is the result of a major excavation that began more than a decade ago, involving Cardiff University in the UK, Binghamton University, and the New York State Museum, located in the foothills of the Catskill Mountains in the Hudson Valley. The ghost forest contains 3 types of ancient trees: Cladoxylopsids, Archaeopteris, and an unidentified species. According to Dr. Chris Berry from Cardiff University, a member of the research team, fish fossils mixed in with the trees suggest that these plants were swept into the area by floods from a different location and deposited in the quarry area beneath the mountain. It is estimated that when the forest was alive, it spanned across what is now Pennsylvania and surrounding areas. At 386 million years old, this fossil forest is the oldest ever excavated, offering valuable insights into a time when Earth was beginning to take shape as it is today. Discovery of 2 new human species that interbred with modern human ancestors. 2 new mysterious human species once existed alongside Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and may have shared knowledge, tools, and interbred with both groups. The first new species, dubbed the Dragon Man, was identified from a huge and fairly well-preserved skull, which exhibits traits of both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, but is more closely aligned with Homo sapiens. The skull was found in 1933 by Chinese workers while they were constructing a bridge over the Songhua River in Harbin, Heilongjiang Province. The workers hid it in a well for many years to protect it from the occupying Japanese forces. It wasn't until 2018 that a man, before passing away, revealed the location of the skull. A research team led by Professor Qiang Ji from Hebei University, China, analyzed and determined that the skull is 146,000 years old, with a face similar to ours but almost no chin. This new human species has been named Homo longi, with the largest skull size among all species in the genus Homo. These characteristics suggest that Homo longi may be more closely related to us than Neanderthals and could have interbred, as there is much evidence showing that human species frequently interbred. The second new human species was identified through fossil fragments excavated in 2010 near the city of Ramla in central Israel, now known as the Nesher Ramla Archaeological Site. Paleoanthropologists spent years analyzing and reconstructing the 3D image of a well-preserved skull using advanced software. The fossils were dated to between 120,000 and 140,000 years ago. The fragments belonged to an unknown human species. The reconstruction revealed a rough face, large teeth, and almost no chin. Their skulls share many features with Neanderthals but are more primitive. Comparison with other fossils, such as those found in Taban Cave, 160,000 years old, Zitia Cave, 250,000 years old, and Kisum Cave, 400,000 years old, clearly shows that they belong to the same species. This large population existed in what is now Israel between 100,000 and 400,000 years ago, and is known to have made sharp stone tools, precursors to spears and arrows. They shared these techniques with nearby Neanderthal and Homo sapiens communities. Over the period from when our Homo sapiens ancestors settled there around 200,000 years ago until their extinction, there were instances of interbreeding. Evidence from some fossils that previously puzzled scientists due to their similarities to Homo sapiens, but with distinct differences, suggests that they were hybrid offspring between our species and the mysterious humans of Nesher Ramla. As previous studies have shown, the genus Homo once included many species, most of which are now extinct, except for Homo sapiens. Treasure of ancient Romans. Italian scientists have discovered a Roman ship dating back to the 1st or 2nd century BC, containing hundreds of ancient ceramic jars. This is a remarkable discovery. The ship's cargo of intact Roman pottery jars, also known as amphorae, provides archaeologists with valuable insights into ancient maritime trade routes. The ship was found at a depth of about 525 feet beneath the sea, near the port city of Civitavecchia, approximately 50 miles from Rome. This unique discovery demonstrates the dangers faced by Roman ships, which had to navigate the treacherous seas while engaging in trade, and it also serves as evidence of the development of ancient maritime trade routes. The ship, estimated to be over 65 feet long, contained hundreds of Roman ceramic jars, which were clearly categorized. However, archaeologists are still uncertain as to the exact use of these jars. Along the coast of Italy's Mediterranean Sea, there are many underwater archaeological treasures, prompting police dive teams to patrol regularly to protect these sites from looters. In 2021, within just a few weeks, Sicilian archaeologists discovered two ancient Roman ships, one off the coast of Palermo and the other near Ustica Island. Both ships contained large quantities of wine jars. Additionally, many other Roman ships have been discovered in the Mediterranean. For example, in 2013, off the coast of Genoa, scientists uncovered a nearly intact ship dating back to the 2nd century BC. Ancient cemetery with thousands of graves on cliffside. The island of Sicily in Italy is considered one of the most mysterious regions in Italy. In addition to well-known landmarks, the island still preserves an ancient cemetery complex. Unlike typical cemeteries where graves are visible upon entry, the ancient cemetery in Sicily requires visitors to look up high, atop the steep cliff faces. This is the Pantalica Rock Cemetery, a prehistoric burial site consisting of thousands of graves carved into the vertical cliffs, resembling a giant beehive from a distance. Between caves and cliffs, about 5,000 ancient graves can be seen from afar. These graves were carved deep into the limestone mountain by ancient people. The graves come in various shapes, from square and rectangular to oval, and they are relatively small in size. Upon entering, the tombs resemble artificial caves, and some are divided into chambers. According to scientific estimates, some of these tombs date back around 3,000 years. The Pantalica Rock Cemetery is located in the Hybla Mountains, in a valley formed by the Calcanara and Anapo rivers. The complex is a series of tombs that run along the mountain slopes. It is known that the cemetery was created by the native people from the coastal region of Sicily, and it developed during the Late Bronze Age. Here, they carved tombs into the mountain rock. However, many of the tombs were abandoned when the Sicani people settled in the area around the 7th century BC. During the early Roman period, the tombs continued to be used. Later, the Muslims discovered this rugged mountain area as a perfect hiding place and established a medieval community there. The ancient rock cemetery is surrounded by a rich and diverse flora and fauna untouched by modern infrastructure. In 2005, the rock cemetery was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has been said that walking through the valley of these ancient tombs feels like a journey through time, reflecting on the past. The 99-million-year-old monster bird. A beautiful piece of amber found in Myanmar has provided the first clue about the existence of a monster bird that lived and died alongside the dinosaurs. According to Sci News, the amber fragment from Myanmar is the first clear fossil evidence in the world of molting in mid-Cretaceous juvenile birds. It also reveals a bird that lived a life unlike any bird species alive today. The Cretaceous period, often called the Age of Monsters on Earth, includes the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, which saw the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. During this time, a group of modern creatures, birds, also underwent distinct evolutionary progress. A team of scientists led by Dr. Jingmai O'Connor from the Field Museum of Natural History has stated that the ancient monster bird, whose remains were uncovered, belongs to a group called Enantiorniths, which went extinct along with the dinosaurs in the mass extinction event 66 million years ago. However, they are a crucial link to understanding how early bird species evolved, as Enantiorniths were the most diverse group of birds during the Cretaceous period and relatives of the ancestors of modern birds. The bird associated with the amber fragment is from a later period of Enantiorniths, when birds had begun to transition from their primitive form to a more modern version, similar to today's birds. The new monster bird seems to be a transitional creature. It molted very early but still had to become independent quite early in life. This discovery accidentally explains the long-standing mystery of the extinction of all Enantiorniths when the Chicxulub asteroid impact struck, rendering the environment uninhabitable for a long period. The environmental temperature is thought to have dropped drastically, with volcanic ash covering the sky for centuries, blocking sunlight. This is also the reason why cold-sensitive creatures, poorly adapted or simply too large to find food, like the dinosaurs, went extinct, while the mammalian ancestors survived and became the foundation of a new and diverse animal kingdom. The mysterious Lover's Rock. The Lover's Rock, La Pena de los Enamorados, also known as the Sleeping Giant, is a natural rock formation that rises 2,900 feet above the ground, located in the Andalusia region of Spain. Above it, at the location of the giant's chest, is an ancient tomb, known to locals as the White Stone Tomb, which has been famous for some time. However, a recent excavation led by Professor Leonardo Garcia San Juan of the University of Seville, Spain, has revealed shocking secrets about the White Stone Tomb. First, it was not just an ancient tomb, but also an early form of an astronomical observatory, where ancient people used it to observe celestial bodies, calculate calendars, track seasons, and conduct rituals. The ancient white stone tomb on the Lover's Rock and the details within the tomb were carefully arranged with astronomical significance. The oldest megalithic stones of the tomb date back to around 3,000 years ago. Some burial goods made of ceramics from the same period were placed in the tomb at the same time. Scientists suspect that the remains were placed on a large flat stone platform and then pushed to the rear of the platform once they had decomposed, where archaeologists found 45 teeth and 95 bones. Around 2,500 years ago, the tomb showed signs of being upgraded with the addition of 2 stone burial niches, possibly the resting place of a high-status couple. Sometime later, the tomb underwent significant changes, with new stone blocks being added to seal the tomb entrance. This renovation also included the addition of bones from at least 2 children and 3 other women. Thus, the tomb was used in 3 distinct stages before it was completely sealed around 1950 to 1180 BC. On another level, the stone circles and the placement of the tomb reveal that it was indeed an ancient observatory, where people from the Neolithic period used it to observe many important phenomena around 3,000 years ago, marking the end of the Stone Age in the region. All the floor slabs in the tomb were also carefully arranged to align with the direction of the sunrise on June 21st, the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, indicating that this could have been a ceremonial site dedicated to the sun god. 177 feet long sea dragon fossil on top of a mountain. A team of scientists led by paleontologist Martin Sander from the University of Bonn, Germany, has discovered 3 fossils dating back to 205 million years from the Triassic period. These fossils belong to the famous marine reptiles known as ichthyosaurs, also called fish lizards or marine dragons. They are called marine dragons because their bodies are incredibly odd, resembling a monstrous whale, but they are actually reptiles. They were extremely dangerous predators in the oceans during the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. The 3 sea dragons were found at 3 different peaks in the Alps. The first and second fossils, which include ribs and vertebrae, reveal that when alive, these creatures were about 69.8 feet and 49.2 feet long, respectively. The third specimen only contained a single tooth, which was 5.9 inches long and 2.4 inches wide, suggesting that when it was alive, it must have been up to 177 feet long. These 3 specimens upgrade the ichthyosaurs to become one of the largest species among the sea dinosaurs at the time when this group of creatures ruled the planet. The largest ichthyosaur resided at the peak of the Krachenhorn near Davos, Switzerland. Its size is inferred from a more complete ichthyosaur fossil, 59 feet long, which was described last year. Its tooth, with a base width of 0.8 inches, is much smaller compared to the 2.4 inches wide, 5.9 inches long tooth just recently uncovered by scientists. It is known that large sea dragons were predators of sperm whales, giant squids, large fish, and even smaller marine reptiles like ichthyosaurs in the ancient oceans teeming with monstrous creatures. The reason these marine monsters became fossilized atop mountains is believed to be the process of Earth's plate tectonics, where tectonic plates constantly shift, transforming continents and oceans over time. As a result, a plate from the Triassic Ocean has, after 205 million years, turned into the Alps peaks, giving these ancient monsters the chance to be revealed once again to the world. The Copper Scroll. The Copper Scroll is one of the strangest historical documents ever found. It was first discovered by an archaeologist in the caves of Qumran. It was found in March 1952 behind Cave 3 at Qumran. This was the last scroll out of the 15 scrolls discovered in the cave, and thus it was named 3Q15. However, unlike the other scrolls, which were written on parchment or papyrus, this scroll was written on metal, specifically copper mixed with about 1% tin. Due to the corrosion of the metal, the scroll could not be unrolled in the traditional manner. Therefore, in 1955, the scroll was cut into 23 strips and then pieced together. The Copper Scroll contains a list of 64 locations where an astounding amount of treasure is said to be buried. 63 of these locations reference quantities of gold and silver estimated by the ton. In total, it is estimated that more than 4,600 talents of precious metals are listed on the scroll, with the total value of the treasure exceeding $1 billion. However, searching for this treasure is not easy. The directions are very complex, written in such a way that only those with intimate knowledge of the area can understand them. Without a starting point, the instructions are essentially meaningless. One of the biggest treasure hunts took place in 1962, led by John Allegro. By following some of the clues from the listed locations, the expedition team excavated several areas that might have been where the treasure was buried. However, in the end, they had to return disappointed. To this day, despite being known for decades, no one has discovered the treasure buried within the words written on this copper scroll. One 200-year-old graffiti drawing. Icelandic archaeologists have unearthed the oldest known graffiti drawing in the country, a Viking-era scratch drawing resembling a ship. Bjarni F. Einarsson, the archaeologist and leader of the excavation project, said that the researchers discovered the graffiti drawing in the remains of a longhouse. The hastily carved writing was etched into a red clay slab, measuring about 1 inch wide, and dates to shortly after the year 800 AD. Einarsson explained that the incomplete ship depicted is typical of Viking-era graffiti. The carving shows a sail with vertical lines, a rope from the sail extending to the front of the ship, and part of the ship's hull. According to Einarsson, it is very common for ships to be depicted incompletely. He noted that Viking-era ship drawings are widespread in Scandinavia and are often found on fragments of bones, stones, and wood. Cemetery of over 1 million mummies in Egypt. A team of archaeologists from Brigham Young University announced that they have recently discovered this cemetery near a pyramid, naming it Fag el Gamis. Many of the mummies found here date from the Roman Empire or the Eastern Roman Byzantine period, around the 1st to 7th centuries AD. According to Live Science, this was not a burial site for kings or royal family members. The deceased were not buried with burial goods and even lacked coffins. Their internal organs were not removed, and instead, the mummification process took place naturally due to the dry environment. Several objects, such as glass, linen, and colorful woolen socks, were found in the graves of children. The archaeologists noted that the origin of these mummies remains a mystery. They discovered a nearby village, but its scale does not match the vast size of the cemetery. An ancient town named Philadelphia is also nearby, but it already had its own burial site. The origin of this cemetery remains unsolved and continues to be a mystery. Mysterious monsters of the world never seen before. A creature with features half resembling a reptile and half resembling a bird has been unearthed from a 121-million-year-old slab of rock at the Paleontological Treasure Trove on the Pigeon Hill of China. According to Sci News, this creature has been named Migmanikian Laiyang and belongs to a group of Maniraptorian dinosaurs, which includes species capable of flight. Maniraptorans first appeared in the fossil record during the Jurassic period, and their descendants still exist today in the form of modern birds. Maniraptorans are part of a larger group known as theropod dinosaurs, which have been shown to be the ancestors of birds. The newly discovered creature is a completely new member of this group and has never been found anywhere else in the world. Its most notable features include long arms, three-fingered hands, and a unique crescent-shaped bone in the wrist. Its hands are different from those of other theropod dinosaurs, providing an important piece to the complex puzzle of this lineage. The fossil of Migmanikian Laiyang was found at the Pigeon Hill site, which is part of the Longjiang Formation in Inner Mongolia, China. Over the past decade, a new freshwater fossil site from the early Cretaceous period, Pigeon Hill, has attracted widespread attention for yielding exceptionally well-preserved fossils from the Jehol biota. The Jehol biota is a large region centered in western Liaoning Province, China, known for its rich and diverse ecosystems. Opening the 4,000-year-old coffin, the perfect object inside, stunned the entire archaeological team. In July 2018, Dr. Hugh Wilmot, who was overseeing an Anglo-Saxon burial excavation in Lincolnshire, northeastern England, was approached by a local conservation official who told him about a potentially more exciting find. While working at the Tetney Golf Club, a local golf course, workers were using a large excavator to dig a small pond when they unexpectedly unearthed a rare prehistoric coffin containing the skeleton of a man. Specifically, the workers at Tetney Golf Club in England had accidentally discovered a 4,000-year-old waterlogged coffin containing the remains of a man who archaeologists determined to have been of high social status. When Dr. Wilmot, an archaeologist and senior lecturer in European historical archaeology at the University of Sheffield, UK, arrived at the golf course the next day, he found what he described as a mess. 12 feet underground, the team discovered a waterlogged burial site and an exposed coffin that had been broken into pieces. Dr. Wilmot said he quickly realized that he and his team of archaeologists would need to act fast and carry out a rescue and recovery operation to save the coffin from further damage. That summer was very hot. The coffin would, once exposed to air, would decompose very quickly. The 4,000-year-old coffin had only days left, he said. The wooden coffin, which was 10 feet long and 3 feet wide, contained the remains of a man buried with an axe. Archaeologists determined that the coffin was made by hollowing out the trunk of an oak tree. The deceased was then lined with a layer of yew or juniper leaves before being sealed with the remaining part of the oak trunk. These practices were reserved for high-status individuals in the Bronze Age society. Hugh Wilmot, the archaeologist from the University of Sheffield, who led the research team, said, "The organic materials were well preserved in the damp, airless conditions inside the hollow tree trunk. This could tell us about the types of trees chosen to cushion the body and even the time of year this man was buried." This coffin is one of about 65 known to have been found in England. After a year in cold storage, it was transferred to the York Archaeological Trust, where it continues to be preserved. Along with the remains, there was a perfectly preserved axe with a stone blade and wooden handle. When the archaeologists saw the axe inside the 4,000-year-old coffin, they stood in stunned silence for a long time. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The axe was an extremely rare find, especially since its wooden handle had survived 4,000 years of burial. It is one of only 12 known to have been discovered in England, and archaeologists believe it was more of a symbol of power than a practical tool. Explaining why the coffin was waterlogged, yet its contents remained so well preserved, Experts explained that rising sea levels and coastal flooding had eventually covered the burial mound and grave with a deep layer of silt, coupled with the undeniable durability of oak wood, which helped preserve it. The ancient coffin and axe were placed in cold storage to keep them stable, while archaeologists worked to learn as much as possible before the conservation process began, a process that could slightly alter the appearance of the artifacts. Dr. Wilmot further explained that the burial showed that the man was an important figure in his community. Making such a heavy wooden coffin was a complex task. The construction of the burial mound also required the effort of many people, not just family members. The axe was likely a ceremonial object, a symbol of power, he said. Historic England invested nearly $70,000, about $97,000, in this conservation effort. The coffin was transported to the York Archaeological Trust, where the conservation process is expected to take an additional 2 years, due to the size and weight of the coffin. Ian Panter, head of the York Archaeological Trust, said that conservationists were still deciding whether to attempt to reassemble the pieces of the coffin. He explained that one end of the coffin, measuring 8 feet long and weighing half a ton, was particularly difficult to handle. The entire coffin was about 10 feet long and 3 feet wide. The 4,000-year-old coffin and axe will eventually be displayed at the collection, a museum of art and archaeology in Lincolnshire, not far from the golf course. The remaining bones of the man will be carefully handled, but are unlikely to be displayed. The man's bones revealed that 5 feet 7 inches tall, quite tall for his time, and was likely in his late 30s or early 40s at the time of death. The elaborate burial suggests this was a society with a hierarchy centered around certain individuals. What do you think? This is truly an exciting discovery, isn't it? But this isn't all I want to show you. Over the years, archaeologists and scientists around the world have made many other fascinating discoveries like this. So, what are they? Join me in the next part of this video to find out. The 7 human skeletons reveal terrible secrets from 5,700 years ago. Recently, in December 2024, archaeologists discovered nearly 100 pieces of human bones in a prehistoric house at Kosinivka, an archaeological site located about 115 miles south of Kiev, Ukraine. Kosinivka preserves the remains of a large prehistoric settlement created by the agricultural Kukuteni Tripilia societies, who lived in areas that are now Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine from 4800 to 3000 BCE. These settlements included public buildings and family homes, many of which had been intentionally set on fire when people left. However, the discovery of human bones inside one of the burned houses at Kosinivka took archaeologists by surprise, prompting a new detailed investigation to understand what had happened. Upon closer inspection of the skeletons, archaeologists found the remains of at least 7 people, 2 children, a teenager, and 4 adults. 4 of the skeletons were found inside the heavily damaged and burned house, while the remaining 3 were not burned and were found outside the house. Researchers discovered that 2 of the adults had suffered severe head trauma just before death, creating a forensic mystery that has lasted 5,700 years. To investigate this unsolved case, the research team used radiocarbon dating to determine that 6 people, likely a family, probably died between 3690 and 3620 BCE, while the 7th person, a non-burned adult, died about 130 years later, after the house had burned and been abandoned. The team then carefully examined broken bone samples and discoloration patterns, finding that the bones had been charred while still fresh. With evidence of the fire, the researchers hypothesized that 3 of the individuals may have died inside the burning house, while others may have succumbed to smoke inhalation or carbon monoxide poisoning and died outside the house. However, this analysis did not reveal additional information about the cause of the head trauma. The researchers wrote that the isolated skull fragments might have been part of a deliberate burial ritual, and the entire skeleton collection could be the result of a complex, multi-stage burial tradition. Unfortunately, despite leaving behind a significant amount of archaeological evidence, much remains unknown about how these people treated the dead. Jordan Karsten, an archaeologist at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, stated that the theory of intentional house burning seems plausible, as the individuals found at Kosinivka may have been killed during a raid, and their house was set on fire during the conflict. He added, previous explanations for the burned Kukuteni Tripilia houses focused on the destruction of ceremonial houses through intentional burning, but these results suggest that conflict between groups may better fit the new data. Economically, burning a house full of food, pottery, tools, and ceremonial items doesn't make sense, and the Cucuteni Tripilia lived in a forested steppe region near pastoralist nomadic groups. Instead of destroying their own homes, could these neighboring groups have done so? This is a difficult question to explain, and it remains a mystery that challenges scientists' understanding to this day. The mysterious Temple of Aliens. This is the Kailasa Temple in Maharashtra, India. One of the greatest achievements in rock-cut architecture in India, the Kailasa Temple is carved from a single mountain face, standing 107 feet above the ground. Despite the fact that the rock slopes downward from the back of the temple to the front, archaeologists have always believed it was carved from a single piece of rock. The Kailasa Temple is the 16th temple in the 34-temple complex at the Ellora Caves. According to the legend of the Marathi people in Maharashtra, the ruling king fell gravely ill, and the queen prayed to the god Shiva to cure him. The queen promised to build a temple in honor of Shiva and vowed to fast until the temple was completed, and Shiva granted her request. An architect named Kokasa then promised the queen that he could complete the temple within 1 week so she wouldn't have to fast for too long and risk her health. Kokasa began carving the temple from the top of the mountain downwards. From a massive rock, after completion, it turned into an intricately carved temple. Experts believe the temple was made from megalithic stone. The dominant architectural style is Dravidian. The Kailasa Temple has a square pyramidal shape with meticulously carved details, roughly 3 stories high. The temple includes a courtyard with a horseshoe-shaped floor plan and a Gopuram tower at the entrance. On both sides of the main temple are columns standing 98 feet tall, adorned with carvings of many gods. The temple courtyard measures 269 feet by 151 feet. Inside the courtyard is a central shrine dedicated to Shiva, the supreme god symbolizing both creation and destruction. In front of the main temple is a statue of Nandi, the bull, who serves as Shiva's mount. Inside this structure, there are columns, windows, and several rooms. At the center of the main shrine stands a giant stone linga. The gods carved to the left of the entrance are said to be followers of Shiva, while those on the right are followers of Vishnu, the god of protection, who is also one of the 3 principal gods of Hinduism, alongside Shiva and Brahman. Next to Shiva are 2 large columns and sculptures depicting stories related to this god. There are also elephant sculptures at the base, making the temple appear as though it is being supported on the backs of elephants. All the details are incredibly refined. Historical records simply state that the technique used to create the Kailasa Temple was rock cutting, and according to archaeologists' research, to complete this project, the ancients needed to carve and transport 400,000 tons of earth and stone. If built manually, the workers would have needed up to 20 years to complete the task. This means they would have had to work continuously for 12 hours a day, processing 11 tons of earth and stone every hour. To this day, no one can explain how the ancients could have separated massive stones from a mountain over 98 feet high with such perfect precision. As a result, many rumors suggest that the Kailasa Temple was constructed by extraterrestrials. However, archaeologists still believe that the Kailasa Temple was built by King Rashtrakuta Krishnapalswamis around 756 to 773 CE, with some elements completed later. Additionally, there is an interesting anecdote related to this temple. The Muslim Emperor Aurangzeb hired thousands of workers to destroy the temple. In 1682, he ordered the temple to be leveled. Yet, despite bringing in thousands of workers, they could not cause significant damage to the temple for 3 years. They were only able to break a few statues, while the temple itself remained largely intact. In the end, Emperor Aurangzeb was forced to abandon this impossible task. To this day, Hindus believe that the temple is protected by divine forces. The Kailasa Temple is not only an architectural marvel, but also a place that reflects the artistic and philosophical richness of ancient Indian civilization. In particular, one of the temple's stone panels is inscribed with the epic Ramayana. It is estimated that around 32 million Sanskrit carving details at the site remain untranslated. If you have the opportunity, you should visit this temple to witness the majestic beauty it holds. The exquisitely carved Tang Dynasty coffin in China. One day, the farmer grabbed his shovel and went out to a vegetable field near his home to dig the pit as planned. The soil in the field, having been frequently worked, was quite loose, making the digging process easy and fast. Suddenly, the shovel struck something that made a loud, sharp noise. Upon closer inspection, the farmer saw that it was a large pebble. Thinking nothing of it, he continued his work. However, as he dug deeper, he found more and more pebbles. The layer of pebbles seemed to be as deep as an adult person. Beneath the pebbles, he discovered a layer of bricks. He reached down, picking up the bricks, and found intricate, unusual patterns carved on them. At this point, he sensed that something unusual was going on. Knowing that Zhangjiakou was a place rich in history and culture, the farmer dared not dig any deeper and quickly reported his discovery to the city's Cultural Heritage Management Center. Soon after, an archaeological team from Zhangjiakou arrived with various excavation tools. Although it was already dark, the experts worked diligently. After a while, they were certain that they were about to uncover an ancient tomb. The pebbles and bricks were used to protect the tomb. After the archaeological team removed the topsoil, they discovered that the tomb appeared to have no other protective measures besides the layer of pebbles and bricks. The team was overjoyed, knowing that this could save them a great deal of time, effort, and money in excavating the tomb. After some time, the archaeologists successfully removed the surrounding bricks, revealing a magnificent ancient tomb. The experts concluded that the tomb did not have a mausoleum door or an entry passage. When they opened the coffin, they discovered that it contained very few burial items, just the cremated remains of the tomb's owner and 22 coins. Based on these coins, the experts determined that the tomb dated back to the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 AD. At this point, a seasoned archaeologist made a decision that surprised everyone. He said, "Rebury the coffin and wait for 13 more years. The treasure will appear." He explained that upon inspecting the coffin, he noticed that the wood had merged with the soil underneath. With the technology and tools available at the time, it would be difficult to guarantee a safe excavation. The coffin would be damaged during the process of bringing it to the surface. To preserve this millennia-old cultural heritage, the team decided to restore the tomb to its original state by placing the pebbles and bricks back around the coffin to protect it. They patiently waited for 13 more years, hoping that advancements in technology would allow them to safely recover the coffin and bring it to the city's museum for deeper study and restoration. In 1985, the team returned to the tomb with modern equipment. They successfully retrieved the coffin without causing any damage. Today, the coffin is recognized by the Chinese government as a national cultural relic, level 3, and is carefully preserved by experts. Despite extensive research, the identity of the tomb's owner remains unclear. However, the coffin itself tells a rare story about the craftsmanship of Tang Dynasty artisans in ancient China, showing their remarkable skill in intricately carving the coffin with exquisite, detailed, and beautiful images. Therefore, this Tang Dynasty cultural relic has become a treasure with immense artistic and archaeological value. The giant fragrant wood, more expensive than diamonds. According to the workers, when the excavator was digging the trench, it suddenly encountered a tremendous resistance. No matter how hard the machine tried, it couldn't move the soil beneath. Suspecting that the excavator had hit a rock, the workers quickly gathered to check and discovered that the obstacle was a large, very hard piece of black wood. To continue with their work, the team decided to excavate the wood, but the deeper they dug, the larger the wood seemed to be. It took 13 days for them to finally bring the wood to the surface. Its size left everyone astonished. One worker said, "It's a tree with a diameter of about 8 feet and a length of approximately 115 feet. Despite its massive size, it was excavated in relatively intact condition." According to the project manager, after the giant wood was discovered at the construction site, the area was immediately cordoned off, and the discovery was reported to the project owner and other relevant parties for inspection. To avoid disrupting the construction work, and with the approval of the management, the team used a large towing vehicle to transport the wood to a temporary storage warehouse while waiting for experts to arrive for evaluation. Lin Huawei, a local official, speculated that the wood might be an ancient cypress tree over 5,000 years old. He expressed hope that the sacred tree could be preserved as a feng shui treasure for the local people. However, experts identified the tree as agar wood, weighing 26 tons, rich in oil, and emitting a strong fragrance. Based on the market price of agar wood at the time, the wood was worth at least 1 billion RMB. Yang Guochen, the president of the local ecology association, explained that the area had once been a basin formed by erosion and flooding thousands of years ago, possibly even from the Ice Age. Most of the giant trees found here were ancient trees that had been submerged and buried by natural causes such as heavy rain, earthquakes, lightning, and floods. Some of these trees may have been carried by floodwaters from elsewhere before being buried here. In nature, agar wood is a rare and valuable type of wood formed from the Aquilaria tree. The transformation of the wood particles occurs due to pathological factors such as cracking, the intrusion of fungi, and other natural processes over time. When the tree becomes infected in a particular area, it produces resin to heal the wound, acting as a natural defense mechanism against the disease, thus creating agar wood. Not all Aquilaria trees contain agar wood. Only those affected by disease will have agar wood in their core. For centuries, agar wood has been highly prized for its fragrance and numerous medicinal properties. As a result, this type of wood is highly sought after. Besides its rarity, this is also why agar wood commands such a high price in Asian markets and around the world. 2 forgotten cities at an altitude of over 6,500 feet. Forgotten for centuries, 2 cities located nearly 3 miles apart were hidden beneath the lush grasslands of the mountains in Uzbekistan. These cities, named Tashbulak and Tugunbulak, were once important crossroads along the ancient Silk Road but were mysteriously abandoned. Now, for the first time, archaeologists have mapped these cities, a task that reveals their role as major hubs along the ancient trade route. Using LiDAR technology mounted on drones, researchers were able to uncover structures obscured by vegetation. The images they captured show 2 large urban areas with unexpected scale, including watchtowers, fortresses, complexes, squares, and walkways capable of supporting tens of thousands of people. The research team mapped the 2 cities in 2022, conducting 22 drone flights equipped with LiDAR. According to the study, this marks the first time this technology has been used in this region. The LiDAR sensor measures the time each laser pulse takes to reflect back, using this information to create a 3-dimensional map of the environment below. This technique has revolutionized the study of human history and culture, particularly useful in discovering archaeological sites in the Amazon rainforest and ancient Maya ruins in Central America. Anthropologist Michael Fracchetti, the lead author of the study, noted that discovering these densely populated medieval cities at an altitude of over 6,500 feet above sea level is quite astonishing. Life in these settlements must have been incredibly difficult, especially during the winter months. This is a region inhabited by nomadic herders, and for most people, it is on the periphery. Today, only 3% of the world's population lives at or above this altitude, mostly in the Tibetan Plateau and the Andes mountain range. The study also highlights that ancient settlements in high-altitude regions, such as Machu Picchu in Peru, are considered unusual due to the harsh living conditions at such heights. The archaeological team has started preliminary excavations at these 2 sites to uncover who built these mysterious cities and why they were abandoned. Fracchetti and his colleagues believe these newly discovered high-altitude cities are too large to have simply been trading posts or waypoints along the Silk Road. It's likely that these were settlements built to exploit iron ore beneath the ground. The research team hopes that future excavations will reveal who lived here and who founded the cities. Fracchetti also remarked, "This entire region had a valuable commodity at the time, iron, and it also had many juniper forests, which could provide fuel for smelting." Sylvia, a researcher not involved in the study, commented that high-altitude urban sites are extremely rare in the archaeological record because of the many challenges involved in establishing large communities in mountainous areas. The discovery of Tashbulak and Tugunbulak forces us to rethink the ideal locations for founding a city. The study, based on LiDAR data, shows that Tugunbulak covered an area of about 0.46 square miles, with evidence of more than 300 unique architectural structures ranging from 323 to 46,200 square feet. In contrast, Tashbulak spanned an area of about 0.03 to 0.04 square miles. Although smaller, Tashbulak features a fortress consisting of a high mound surrounded by dense architecture and earthen fortifications. Researchers believe Tashbulak was inhabited from the 6th to the 11th centuries, while Tugunbulak was inhabited from the 8th to the 11th centuries. The reasons behind the abandonment of these settlements remain unclear. However, these stories are expected to become clearer as research progresses, with no signs indicating that the cities were leveled, burned, or attacked. This remains an active area of study with the hope that the mysteries surrounding these sites will soon be unraveled. Ancient tomb, containing 46 glowing coffins. In late December 2006, some residents of Shuiku, Jinghan County, Jiangxi Province, China, used explosives to blast rocks in order to construct a highway. During the process, they heard strange sounds coming from deep beneath the ground. The intermittent and irregular explosions led them to suspect that there were abnormal hollow chambers below the surface. Shortly after hearing the explosions, local residents quickly gathered to inspect the area where the rocks had been blasted and discovered a deep hole, approximately 43 feet deep. Inside the hole was a massive ancient tomb containing many precious relics. Furthermore, beneath the tomb, they discovered 46 identical coffins buried with the tomb's occupant. Faced with this unexpected situation, the workers reported it to the authorities and archaeologists. As a result, a team from the National Cultural Heritage Administration quickly arrived at the site. Experts concluded that the tomb, covering an area of about 1,722 square feet, was built approximately 2,500 years ago. This discovery shocked the archaeological community, as finding such a large number of ancient coffins, dating back thousands of years, is extremely rare. Even more remarkable, when the coffins were opened, archaeologists found 46 mysteriously glowing female skeletons. These women, aged between 16 and 20 when they died, were buried without clothing and in a special posture. Surrounding them were various objects related to the profession of sewing and weaving. Archaeologists noted that the skeletons were unusual, as they were surrounded by crystals. These transparent crystals, resembling glass, emitted a greenish glow like jade when in the dark, with the largest crystal measuring up to 3.35 inches. No expert present at the site had ever encountered such a phenomenon before. The discovered tomb could be the final resting place of King Zhongwu of the state of Zhou, a small feudal state during China's Xia to Western Zhou dynasties. Based on the number of skeletons found, the burial methods, and the age of the women, it can be inferred that they were sacrificed according to the custom of suti, a form of death accompanying the ruler. To ensure that they would be clothed and live in luxury in the afterlife, King Zhongwu ordered the royal seamstresses to die with him. The concubines were forced to eat poison-laced watermelon. It is possible that the glowing effect of the bodies is due to compounds that formed crystals that emit light in the coffins, including ferric phosphate and some other fluorescent substances that have yet to be identified. After 2,500 years, these toxins may have transformed into substances that fluoresce at the time of discovery. Although there are hypotheses, the phenomenon of the glowing skeletons remains scientifically unexplained, making it a mystery in the field of archaeology. Chinese treasure found in ancient tomb, ravaged by thieves. Not long ago, Beijing Normal University in China began expanding its student dormitory area. During construction, workers unexpectedly discovered a massive vaulted structure with a large amount of broken bricks mixed in the soil. The first reaction of the witnesses was, "There's a tomb underground." They quickly reported it to the university authorities, who immediately contacted the Beijing Cultural Relics Bureau and patiently waited for an archaeological team to arrive for excavation. After some intense work, the archaeologists concluded that the ancient tomb had been heavily looted. Inside this large tomb, there were 5 smaller tombs. 4 of them had been completely raided of their burial items. To learn more about the owners of the tombs, the archaeologists continued their work. After finding the main entrance to the tomb, they discovered a stele inscribed with the words Manchu on the front and Chinese characters on the back. Upon further examination of this stele, the archaeologists found that the tomb's occupant was the daughter of a high-ranking official during the reign of Emperor Kangxi. The girl, who had been seriously ill, passed away at the age of 7. When the archaeologists thought about the high status of this child and the many burial objects in the tomb that had been looted by grave robbers, they were very upset. However, just as the excavation was about to be completed, the archaeologists made a surprising discovery. The walls of the tomb began to emit a hollow sound. The team members gently tapped on the walls and discovered that there might be a small secret compartment inside. After opening it, they found 55 high-value burial items placed there. Each of these items was of exceptional quality, including famous Dukai porcelain and jade wine bottles from Hetian. This discovery made the archaeologists shout with joy and silently thank the grave robbers, who, dazzled by the gold and silver, had failed to notice this hidden compartment. Among the priceless cultural treasures unearthed, the most notable was a Ming Dynasty Dukai porcelain bowl, a gift from Emperor Kangxi to the girl during the Lantern Festival, the 15th day of the 8th lunar month in the Chinese calendar. According to the archaeologists, Dukai porcelain is a type of porcelain decorated with blue and white designs beneath the glaze, which is then glazed and fired. Additional patterns are painted on top of the glaze and fired again. This technique requires great skill and precision from the craftsmen and originated during the Ming Dynasty. As a result, the Ming Dynasty Dukai bowl that Emperor Kangxi gave to the young girl, daughter of a high-ranking Qing official, is extremely rare and valuable. In addition to the Dukai porcelain, the burial items included Hetian jade, also known as Xinjiang jade, which is renowned worldwide in China to this day. The mining of Hetian jade has been documented since the Western Han Dynasty. Hetian jade comes in various colors and is categorized by different names, such as green jade, yellow jade, white jade, purple jade, and red jade. Among them, white jade is the most precious. White jade, also known as Yangji jade, is characterized by its ivory white color, smooth texture, and transparency, free of impurities. It is considered one of the highest quality varieties of Hetian jade. This is why white jade is used to create imperial seals and other important items for emperors. It is regarded as a symbol of noble quality and the power of those who hold it. Sea monster hiding in 500-year-old shipwreck. While diving near Stora Ekön Island in Sweden to search for artifacts from the Gribshunden shipwreck, Professor Johan Ronby and his colleagues from the Blekinge Museum in Sweden encountered something unexpected. They heard a sound similar to a dog growling coming from inside the ship. Upon entering to investigate, they were startled to discover a strange sea creature lurking inside the ship's hull. After a thorough examination, they found that the creature resembled a dog, and the growling sound they heard was coming from it. As a result, they decided to salvage the ship for further research. The Gribshunden was a royal ship that had been lying undisturbed at the bottom of the Baltic Sea for 500 years. This ship belonged to King John of Denmark and is believed to have sunk in 1495 after it caught fire while traveling from Copenhagen to Kalmar on Sweden's eastern coast. The sea monster was made of wood and was likely used as a scarecrow to ward off evil spirits. The growling sound might have been a design feature intended to produce that noise. Scientists believe that this sea monster didn't exist in any medieval European cultures, but it resembled artifacts from an ancient temple in the Amazon rainforest. According to archaeologists, this sea monster is known as the Gribshunden. The term Gribshunden literally means griffin hound, but it could also refer to a specific breed of dog. The name was mentioned in a letter by King John in 1486, in which he wrote, "In Navi Nostra Griffone." This means, in Griffone, and linguistically, Griffone can be seen as a variant of Grips or Griffus, Griffin, A. Aegis, 2015, Percentuskammerer, June 27. This explains the presence of the sea monster aboard the ship. In addition to the wooden sea monster, many medieval weapons, armor, and other artifacts were also found aboard the ship. The Gribshunden wreck was rediscovered by divers in the 1960s and 1970s. The wreck lies at a depth of about 33 feet off the coast of Stora Ekön Island. The site is very complex, and much of the shipwreck remains buried in sediment. From 2000 to 2012, maritime archaeologists recovered several artifacts during excavations. After a few years of interruption, a new research initiative was launched in 2019, and explorations continued in 2020 and 2021. Before the ship was fully salvaged, archaeologists Mikael Larsson and Brendan Foley from Lund University discovered more than 3,000 new artifacts in containers on the ship that previous expeditions had missed. These artifacts included various spices such as ginger, saffron, pepper, mustard, cloves, fennel, and nutmeg. The team also found many fruits, including black raspberries, red raspberries, grapes, and dried flax seeds, which were likely used as snacks. These spices and fruits were exceptionally well preserved, thanks to the microenvironment created by the shipwreck once it sank to the sea floor. When the Gribschunden sank, it brought with it drifting seaweed, leading to thick layers of seasonal algae deposits. As the algae decomposed, it created oxygen-deprived pockets, which contributed to the remarkable preservation of the plant materials. Archaeologists believe that the Gribschunden is truly a treasure trove, as no other shipwreck from that era has been discovered before. It has the potential to offer valuable insights into the golden age of exploration and the maritime mysteries of the age of Columbus and Vasco da Gama. Lost language from the ruins of the Hittite Empire. Excavations at the ancient city of Boğazköy Hattusha in Turkey have recently revealed a tablet containing an unknown Indo-European language. The translation and identification of this language will take time, as no one has seen it before. However, experts confirm that this language belongs to the Anatolian branch of the Indo-European family and is likely the language of the region of Kalashma, an ancient city located in what is now northwestern Turkey. Boğazköy Hattusha, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was once the capital of the Hittite Empire during the Late Bronze Age, from around 1650 to 1200 BC. Excavations at this site have been ongoing for more than a century, conducted by the German Archaeological Institute. According to the University of Würzburg, since the excavation of this site began, researchers have found nearly 30,000 clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform script, which have provided the archaeological community with a wealth of information about the history, society, economy, and religious traditions of the Hittites and their neighbors. Most of the texts found on the clay tablets at this site are written in Hittite, the oldest known Indo-European language. However, this year's excavation has uncovered hymns written in this previously unknown language. Andreas Schachner, the head of this year's excavation, stated, "The new language is written in cuneiform," adding, "This is the writing system the Hittites used. The text is part of a longer document that begins in Hittite writing." According to current scientific research, we know that there are over 3 billion people today who speak Indo-European languages, a language family believed to have a common prehistoric ancestor. The clay tablets found at Boğazköy Hattusha are all inscribed in cuneiform, the oldest known writing system, developed by the ancient Sumerians in Mesopotamia more than 5,000 years ago. Cuneiform was used to write several languages of the ancient world, including Sumerian, Babylonian, Old Persian, and now the language known as Kalashmaic. The Hittite Empire reached its peak in the 14th century BC under King Shupalululiumath I. The Hittite Empire covered the Anatolian Peninsula, which forms much of modern-day Turkey and part of Upper Mesopotamia. It was a powerful empire during the Late Bronze Age until it was conquered by the Assyrian Empire. The Hittites may have developed the earliest known constitutional monarchy, and they are frequently mentioned in the Bible as living among the ancient Israelites. Archaeologists have made several exciting discoveries from the Hittite Empire. Just last month, archaeologists uncovered incredibly well-preserved remains of 2 individuals from the Hittite Empire's Bronze Age. These remains were found in western Turkey at Tavşanlı Mound, known as the heart of western Anatolia. Researchers also found traces of skin and brain tissue on the remains, preserved through the carbonization process that occurred when the bodies were exposed to extremely high temperatures. They believe these 2 individuals were incinerated in an attack on the city, and the remains date back nearly 3,700 years. Nearly 250 hieroglyphs were also found at the Hattusa site last year in the Yerkapo Tunnel. This tunnel was likely used for ritual worship, and the hieroglyphs are estimated to have been drawn about 3,500 years ago. Schachner, who studied both the discovery of the hieroglyphs last year and the Kalashmaic language this year, commented, "They identified a total of 249 Anatolian hieroglyphs here, but they are not entirely different. Altogether, we can categorize them into 8 groups. These characters provide us with innovations in social context. Since they were written with paint, we need to interpret them in many different ways. They think it was done quickly, and therefore we may be able to understand it quickly." What do you think about this discovery? Let me know in the comments below. Massive tomb with 2,000-year-old mummy. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the ancient Roman city of Pompeii was completely destroyed when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD. This is considered one of the deadliest volcanic eruptions in Europe's history. At least 2,000 people may have lost their lives due to lava and hot gases from the eruption. Pompeii stands as a unique testament to life during the Roman Empire and was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. Recently, in a large ancient tomb, archaeologists discovered the best-preserved mummy ever found in Pompeii. This discovery is considered extremely important as it provides scientists with valuable insights into the cultural life of the city's inhabitants thousands of years ago. The find is particularly significant for several reasons. First, it is one of the best-preserved remains ever discovered in the ancient city. This is unusual because, during the Roman period, adult individuals were typically cremated, with only children being buried after death. Another surprising aspect for the archaeologists was that they found white hair still attached to the person's head, and part of their ear remained intact. They believe there are signs indicating that this individual was embalmed. Additionally, the characteristics of the tomb, including a sealed room, helped preserve the body in better condition. This mummy was found in a burial chamber at Porta Sarno, a part of Pompeii that is not yet open to the public. After the discovery of the mummy, researchers worked to identify the individual. Inscriptions in the tomb suggest that the person was a man named Marcus Venerius Secundio, who died at the age of 60 and was quite wealthy. He had been a slave who worked at the Temple of Venus but struggled for his freedom and eventually attained a certain level of social and economic status. In an interview with AP News, Gabriel Zuchtriegel, the director of the Pompeii Archaeological Park, said, "Venerius seems to have worked hard to become wealthy after being freed from slavery, with the grand tomb where he was found as evidence." He added, "He didn't become super rich, but he certainly acquired significant wealth." According to tests conducted on the bones, Venerius was 60 years old when he passed away. Researchers also discovered that Marcus Venerius Secundio's name appeared in the wax tablet archives of banker Caecilius Giocondus, who had an almost perfectly preserved apartment in the Via Vesuvio area of Pompeii. The inscription on the tombstone states that after his freedom, Marcus Venerius Secundio's job in the city was to organize performances in Greek rather than in Latin, which greatly surprised researchers. Zuchtriegel remarked, "Performances in Greek are evidence of the vibrant and open cultural exchange that shaped the ancient city of Pompeii." Professor Laurent Alapont from the University of Valencia said, "They still need to determine whether the embalming of the deceased was a deliberate process. The analysis of the fabric found here could provide more information, as certain types of woven fabric were commonly used for embalming." The remaining parts of the skeleton and organic materials found in the tomb have been transported to a laboratory for further study, with the hope of uncovering more fascinating mysteries surrounding this discovery. Scientists discover an airplane on a mountain, but what they find inside shocks the world. When it comes to plane crashes and disappearances, perhaps we can never forget the tragic incident involving the Airbus A320 from the low-cost airline Germanwings, can we? On March 24, 2015, the Airbus A320 crashed in the French Alps between the Barcelonnette and Digne regions while en route from Barcelona to Dusseldorf. The aircraft was carrying 144 passengers and 6 crew members. According to a report from The Telegraph, radar data showed the plane descending in altitude and speed before disappearing. French radio station Europe 1 quoted a witness saying, "The aircraft was flying lower than usual. This could have been the reason why the plane crashed into the Alps." However, this wasn't the only mysterious plane crash in human history involving a plane in the mountains. An emotional story of search and discovery has also been revealed by scientists from the Himalayas, where a cargo plane was finally found nearly 80 years after it went missing, carrying the fate of 13 people on that fateful flight in early 1945. The aircraft, which had taken off from Kunming, China, was headed to Arunachal Pradesh, a region located between Indian and Chinese territories. Due to poor weather conditions, the plane was pushed into treacherous mountainous terrain, and after that, no trace of the plane or its occupants could be found. However, later, Clayton Kuehls, an American explorer, became the key figure in the search. He was hired by the relatives of one of the missing passengers. Kuehl's expedition crossed hundreds of miles of forest, enduring harsh conditions for months, and tragically, 3 local guides sacrificed their lives to the cold while setting up camp in the frozen wilderness. In December 2021, they discovered the aircraft covered in snow, confirming that this was the long-lost plane, with its tail number visible. However, no traces of bodies were found inside the plane. only remnants of a horrific event that had once occurred. Bill Scherer, who had hired Kulas and lived in New York, shared his emotions. "I am glad to know it was found. This is a heartbreaking story, but it also brings joy. I grew up without a father. My mother had to live with the grief, not knowing what had happened to my father. She faced many difficulties while raising me, just a 13-month-old baby at the time." It is known that previously, the disappearance of hundreds of U.S. military aircraft during World War II in areas like India, China, and Myanmar also occurred. Despite search efforts and various theories proposed, the exact causes of these disappearances remain a mystery that has not been fully unraveled to this day, and it continues to be a major enigma for humanity. As you can see, humanity is filled with mysteries that are hard to understand, isn't it? The discovery of planes missing for decades, even hundreds of years, are impressive findings that bring both sorrow and heartbreak as we learn about them. But this isn't all I want you to see in this video. For thousands of years, archaeologists have made many other fascinating and remarkable discoveries that are hard to erase from our minds. So, what are these discoveries? What makes them so special? Let's continue exploring together right now. 48. Coffins hidden deep in the mountain. At Mount Jiapu in Ximen County, Hunan Province, China, there is a famous temple named Jiapu Temple, which is over 1,000 years old. 300 years ago, a group of monks was seen quietly leaving during the night with 48 coffins. A forest ranger living near Mount Jiapu, Bang Lin, has had the opportunity to hear stories about these 48 mysterious coffins since he was a child. Over the decades, Bang Lin had been disappointed by only finding fake tombs. He had a companion, Long Xiu Ben, the curator of a museum in Ximen County. Long Xiu Ben believed that only a significant figure would have so many fake tombs. For example, Cao Cao, the hero of the Three Kingdoms period, had 72 tombs. It wasn't until the end of 1980, after a heavy snowstorm in Ximen County, that Bang Lin and his wife climbed the mountain and accidentally discovered an unusual phenomenon. Many areas around the melting snow slopes were clearing up quickly, accompanied by white steam. After digging about 3 feet, he heard the sound of a shovel hitting lime and blue bricks. At that point, he discovered a green and white pot with beautiful patterns. Bang Lin quickly contacted his friend Zi Ben to mobilize an archaeological team. After clearing the topsoil, a strange tomb was revealed. The tomb had 3 sections lying side by side. The tomb on the right had a well-preserved burial urn. The tomb in the middle, which Bang Lin unearthed, contained a green and white pot, which was actually an aquatic vase. Overall, the tomb had been severely damaged due to theft. The tomb inscription had a couplet, "Body wears the Big Dipper, head wears the 3 realms," a star that was only used by emperors. They also discovered carvings of dragons and phoenixes in the tomb, symbols reserved for kings. During the excavation, the team found a bronze medal with 4 characters, Feng Tiang Yu Zhao, inscribed. It turned out that the owner of the tomb was the monk Sang Wang Li Zi Cheng, who had led a people's uprising, overthrew Emperor Sung Trin, and ended the 267 years of the Ming dynasty. Li Zi Cheng, also known as Feng Tiang Yu, was considered a hero of the People's Revolt at the end of the Ming dynasty and the beginning of the Qing dynasty. He led the uprising to overthrow the Ming and declared himself emperor in the Forbidden City. However, later, the Manchu forces, in collusion with Wu Sangui, invaded China and established the Qing dynasty in 1644, overthrowing and destroying Li Zi Cheng's forces. Although he only occupied Beijing for 42 days and reigned as emperor for less than a day, according to Chinese customs, the dragon and phoenix patterns were still used in his tomb. Later archaeological excavations and historical records showed that Emperor Li Zi Cheng did not die at Mount Jiugong, as rumored, but escaped to Mount Jiapu. After his death, his subordinates, following the example of ancient emperors, created 48 fake tombs to prevent his tomb from being stolen. The 3-section tomb on Mount Jiapu that was uncovered this time is the actual burial site of Emperor Li Zi Cheng. At the end of the 20th century, the government built the Sang Wang Mausoleum on Mount Jiapu to commemorate him. Today it has become an important cultural and historical site in Hunan Province, China, and is also one of the largest royal cemeteries south of the Yangtze River. A 1,400-year-old queen's tomb holds timeless treasures. A treasure that astonished many in various ways, once symbolizing supreme status, was unearthed in the 1,400-year-old tomb of a mysterious woman from the medieval period. While it may seem like an ordinary object to modern eyes, back in 600 BC, when iron use was still in its early stages, this was a priceless, timeless treasure, especially with its design closely resembling those of today. The folding chair, with a frame size of 27.5 inches by 17.7 inches, is similar to the type of portable chairs we often use in gardens or take along on outdoor trips. The chair was buried with a woman believed to be in her 40s or 50s. Although her identity has not been revealed, the folding chair alone suggests she must have been a person of high social status in her community, someone privileged enough to be buried with a rare, specially crafted or imported item. Archaeologists also found traces of wood and leather among the rusted iron parts of the chair. It appears the woman was placed on this special throne before being laid to rest in the tomb. In fact, folding iron chairs have been found in a number of ancient tombs, but they are extremely rare and usually accompany other lavish burial items. It can be conclusively said that such an item must have had symbolic significance. The person buried here was likely a noblewoman, a lady of the realm, or someone of another high social rank, such as a priest or senior officer. The woman's tomb also contained numerous other treasures, including pearl necklaces, multicolored glass, a finely decorated belt with many ornaments, and a spinning tool. Among these items, a beautiful patterned glass bead helped scientists estimate the tomb's age. Researchers plan to take an X-ray of the folding chair to search for more clues, hoping to uncover the identity of its owner and perhaps shed light on the mysterious man buried nearby. Basement renovation leads to discovery of ancient Roman graves. In a basement renovation project near Paris, the homeowner discovered a set of human remains. This discovery led to the uncovering of an ancient cemetery with nearly 40 Roman-era tombs. After notifying the authorities, archaeological experts were sent to the site to conduct a survey and examination. They confirmed that some of the individuals buried there had been interred approximately 1700 years ago. The oldest tomb dates back to the 3rd century AD, during the Roman Empire. There are also 10 plaster coffins from the early rule of the Franks, a Germanic tribe, which spanned from around 476 to 750 AD. The youngest tomb dates back to the 10th century. This discovery suggests the cemetery was in use for about 700 years. Initially, archaeologists believed the site to be a medieval burial ground, as a 7th century chapel once stood in the area. Therefore, they were surprised when they found tombs from earlier periods. So far, the archaeologists have excavated 38 graves within an area of 560 square feet. The renovated house, where nearly 40 ancient tombs were discovered, sits in the Montconseil district of Corbeil-Essonnes, south of Paris. The area is believed to have once been the site of the medieval Notre-Dame de Champs church, but it turns out that it was originally home to an even older pagan temple. Most of the newly uncovered tombs were arranged in parallel rows. The remains were buried in an upright position inside rotted wooden coffins. However, 10 remains from the Merovingian period, which was ruled by the Franks, were placed in special plaster coffins arranged in a fan shape. Merovingian coffins found in other areas are occasionally decorated and often contain multiple individuals. However, the majority of the newly discovered coffins are undecorated, with each coffin containing the remains of only one person. The age of the oldest tombs suggests that these individuals were buried long before the medieval chapel was constructed. Currently, archaeologists are continuing to excavate and study the remains just uncovered. They will examine them in detail to determine the age, gender, health status, and diet of the individuals buried there. These discoveries provide not only insight into ancient history, but also raise new questions about the culture and lives of generations long gone. It is certain that this exploration will continue to reveal fascinating details about people who lived thousands of years ago. And who knows, there may be even more secrets waiting to be uncovered beneath the ground. 90,000-year-old knife, made from animal bone. Archaeologists recently discovered a knife made from animal bone that dates back to 90,000 years ago in Morocco. Remarkably, the structure of this knife has astonished researchers due to its sophisticated craftsmanship, indicating a high level of skill by ancient humans. The knife was found by Moroccan archaeologists in a cave along the northern coastal region near the Atlantic Ocean. It measures 5.1 inches in length and is believed to be made from the rib bone of a large mammal that lived during that period. Professor Bouzougar, an archaeologist at the National Institute of Archaeology in Morocco and the leader of the research team, stated that this discovery shows that the inhabitants of the caves in North Africa were capable of crafting intricate tools much earlier than previously believed, by as much as 40,000 years earlier than the extinction of the Neanderthals. This bone knife is considered the oldest tool belonging to the Assyrian culture, a period known for the flourishing of stone toolmaking by the ancient inhabitants of North Africa during the Stone Age. However, with its finely crafted shape, this tool stands out significantly compared to others made in the southern Sahara region during the same time. This suggests that the ancient inhabitants of North Africa had more advanced material working skills than those in the south. Additionally, according to Dr. Sylvia Bello from the Natural History Museum in London, the discovery of this knife indicates that humans were already adept at producing highly crafted bone tools as far back as 100,000 years ago. Based on the shape and cutting edge of the knife, Dr. Sylvia believes that it was used to cut soft, elastic materials. Scientists have noted that the ability to craft complex tools from animal bones, a material that requires much higher skill than working with stone, demonstrates that nearly 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had already begun to develop advanced cognitive abilities and refined hand dexterity. The 20,000 treasure artifacts, full of gold, of the exiled emperor. In an excavation that has been ongoing for over a decade, scientists have unearthed more than 20,000 different treasures from the over 2,000-year-old tomb of Emperor Liu He, including a large amount of gold. Liu He was the 9th emperor of the Han Dynasty in China, reigning for only 27 days before being deposed by the Empress Dowager for his excessive indulgence. He was forced into exile, where he lived out the rest of his life and died at the age of 33. The tomb of Hai Hun Ho, the title given to him after his deposition, currently lies in Jiangxi. Archaeologists discovered this ancient tomb, dating back to 74 BCE in 2011, and the excavation is still ongoing. So far, 20,000 treasures have been removed, including large amounts of gold and other valuable artifacts. Preliminary research and statistical results from the Jiangxi Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology show that despite being exiled, Emperor Liu He remained incredibly wealthy. Among the valuable artifacts, which include many items made of gold, silver, bronze, and jade, archaeologists uncovered a broken lacquered screen in the main chamber. After restoration, 2 portraits were revealed, one of which is believed to be the oldest portrait of Confucius. More valuable than the gold and silver, however, were over 5,000 pieces of bamboo, which contained classic Confucian texts inscribed on bamboo slips. Even more priceless is a rare copy of the Lunyu, Analects of Confucius, which had been lost for thousands of years and was finally revealed among the chaotic bamboo pieces. Additionally, the tomb contained 5 well-preserved chariots, each accompanied by the remains of 4 horses that were sacrificed to honor the deceased emperor's status. Scientists remain hopeful of uncovering more treasures from this highly extravagant tomb and plan to conduct further studies on the astonishing artifacts already unearthed. These discoveries are expected to reveal countless fascinating and authentic details about ancient China. 1,000-year-old mummy, found in Peru. Archaeologists in Peru have uncovered a 1,000-year-old mummy at the Huacapuclana archaeological site, located in the heart of the bustling Miraflores district in Lima. Along with the mummy, several artifacts such as pottery and woven textiles were found. The mummy belongs to an adult with long hair, nearly intact jawbones, and is seated in a sitting position. According to Ganoza, the head archaeologist, this mummy is believed to date back to 1,000 years ago, from the early period of the Iqma culture, which thrived along the central coast of Peru before the Inca Empire emerged in the region. Previously, at the Huacapuclana site, archaeologists had discovered multiple mummies and ritual offerings, leading them to believe that many more scientifically valuable artifacts remain to be unearthed. Peru is home to several pre-Columbian cultures that flourished for centuries before the Inca Empire dominated areas along the central coast and the Andes Mountains. Experts say that Lima, with a population of about 10 million people, has approximately 400 archaeological sites scattered throughout its residential areas. They also believe that beneath the busy streets of Lima lies a treasure trove of historical artifacts. Archaeologists have already found many ancient mummies and ritual objects at Huaca Pucllana and hope to uncover even more mysteries in the area. Rare extinct animal bones, found in ancient royal tomb. Chinese archaeologists have discovered the first complete skeleton of a giant panda in the tomb of a Han Dynasty emperor, dating back over 2,000 years. The tomb is located in the city of Xi'an, in Shanxi Province, China. According to researchers, the animal may have been sacrificed and buried with Emperor Han Wendi in 157 BCE as a symbol of power and status. The skull of the panda was previously found in another Han Dynasty tomb, but the body bones of the animal were only discovered alongside the tomb in this instance. However, this marks the first time a complete panda skeleton has been found buried in such a manner. The burial of the giant panda alongside the emperor is believed to symbolically represent the animal escorting Emperor Han Wendi, who reigned from 180 to 157 BCE, to the afterlife. Hu Songmei, an archaeologist at the Shanxi Archaeological Institute, stated that this is the first time a complete panda skeleton has been found in the tomb of an emperor. She added that while archaeologists had previously found the panda's skull in the tomb of Emperor Han Wendi's mother in 1975, no traces of the body were discovered. In addition, archaeologists have uncovered many types of wild animals in the royal tombs of Shanxi Province. They believe this practice was symbolic of the status of Han emperors. Hu's team also found the skeleton of an Asian elephant in the tomb, a rare and now extinct species in China, which disappeared about 1,000 years ago and is currently listed as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Tigers and Tibetan oxen were also found buried with the emperor. Meanwhile, the tomb of the emperor's mother contained the remains of red-crowned cranes, peacocks, proboscis monkeys, and turtles. Previously, archaeologists discovered an extinct species of gibbon in the tomb of Empress Xia, the grandmother of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. According to experts, rare wild animals were typically found only in the tombs of emperors, empresses, and the mothers of emperors. Some of these animals may have been ritual offerings from southern China. Hu believes that the presence of so many pandas in Shanxi during the Han Dynasty indicates that the climate in the province was once warmer and more humid than it is today, which would have created favorable conditions for the growth of bamboo. Archaeologists plan to conduct DNA analysis of these animals to determine where they came from and what types of food they consumed. Ruins of the Sun Temple. The mysterious world of the pharaohs continues to be revealed as one of the 6 legendary sun temples appears in the real world, hailed as the greatest archaeological discovery in Egypt in the past half-century. According to legend, during the 5th dynasty, Egyptian pharaohs built 6 sun temples to honor the sun god Ra and to grant themselves divine status. Unlike the pyramids, these sun temples, dating back to the 25th century BCE, were buried by the desert. It was only in the last century that the first 2 sun temples were brought to light. However, for the past 50 years, the locations of the other 4 great temples remained elusive, despite extensive searches throughout the desert region that the 5th dynasty once ruled. In fact, 50 years ago, when excavating the ancient temple of Niuser at Abu Ghora, archaeologists discovered an older mud brick foundation, indicating the existence of another structure. But because the discovery of the Niuser temple was so significant, no further exploration of the older foundation was conducted, although a white limestone column base was found. Recently, an international archaeological team accidentally found a clay-coated stela, an offering made by the Egyptians at their most sacred sites. As a result, excavation work continued, revealing clear evidence of a 5th dynasty structure. This dynasty lasted for about 150 years, from the early 25th century BCE to the mid-24th century BCE, and was a period of great prosperity. The ruins have been identified as one of the 6 legendary sun temples, featuring a large courtyard and a tower aligned with the east-west axis of the sun, with separate entrances and exits, located along the banks of the Nile River. 7,500-year-old largest observatory in Europe. Archaeologists have uncovered a Neolithic stone circle complex in Spain, similar to the famous Stonehenge Observatory, but much larger and older. The site consists of thousands of individual stones, most of which are standing upright, stretching over a vast area of 1,500 acres, covering an entire hillside. Some of the largest stones stand alone, while others are arranged to form tombs, mounds, stone circles, walls, and straight rows, creating an extremely complex site that scientists have named La Torre la Llanera. This is one of the largest Neolithic stone circle complexes ever excavated in Europe, and it is possibly the largest of its kind. Huge stone circles like Stonehenge, the famous 4,500-year-old stone circle in England. But Stonehenge is much smaller. Stonehenge also shows signs of being a gathering place for rituals, with human remains and indications that the stones were arranged in alignment with certain celestial patterns, suggesting it could have been one of humanity's earliest astronomical observatories. The new structure in Spain was first discovered in 2018 when land was being excavated to prepare for planting avocados. Archaeologists spent several years excavating the vast and unexpected complex, as well as learning more about it. Radiocarbon dating results show that the oldest stones of this expanded Stonehenge were erected 7,500 years ago and had multiple complex purposes. Some stones were erected later, dating to 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Of the thousands of stones, 520 are upright megaliths, most of which belong to the oldest group. Some stones form prominent roofed tombs, while others are arranged like burial chambers, and scientists hope to find human remains as they continue excavations. Mystery Village Beneath Ancient Lake. Deep beneath the turquoise waters of Lake Ohrid, known as the Pearl of the Balkans, a village has recently been discovered by scientists. This is likely the site of the earliest known settlement in Europe, but the reason it was hidden inside a fortification of wooden stakes remains a question that scientists are still working to answer. According to archaeologists, a stretch of the Balkan lakeshore in Albania was once inhabited by people around 8,000 years ago. The village, with its raised wooden houses, has become the oldest village ever discovered in Europe. Radiocarbon dating indicates that the settlement dates back to about 6,000 to 5,800 BCE. Professor Albert Hafner, an archaeologist, suggests that this village is several hundred years older than other settlements found along the Mediterranean coast and the Alpine region of Europe. For us, this is the oldest village in Europe. Other villages considered the oldest have been discovered in the Alps in Italy and date back around 5,000 BCE. The settlement is believed to have been home to around 200 to 500 people, living in stilt houses built on the surface of the lake or in areas prone to flooding. In the course of archaeological excavation, the research team discovered some astonishing secrets. During a dive to the bottom of the lake, they found evidence that the settlement was protected by thousands of flat wooden stakes arranged like a fence. To protect themselves this way, they had to cut down an entire forest. However, the reason the villagers built such a sturdy defense remains unknown. It is estimated that around 100,000 stakes were planted at the lake's bottom. Lake Ohrid is one of the oldest lakes in the world, having existed for over 500,000 years. Thanks to skilled divers, archaeologists can search for artifacts at the lake's bottom and have uncovered many fossilized wood fragments and valuable oak pieces. Analyzing the tree rings has helped the research team reconstruct the daily life of the residents. This provides valuable insights into the climate and environmental conditions of the time. Researchers believe that building the stilt village was a very complex and challenging task, and importantly, we still don't know why the inhabitants chose to build in this way. Initial speculation suggests that the people may have relied on agriculture, farming, and animal husbandry for food, as the research team found various types of seeds, crops, and numerous bones of both wild and domesticated animals. This prehistoric site is of crucial importance for understanding the history, not only of this region, but also of the entire southwestern Europe. Strange earth lump emits a highly valuable fragrance. Mr. Roberto Bertoluso, who lives in the town of Alba in the Piedmont region of northeastern Italy, was out for a walk in the forest with his beloved dog. It was a usual walk, just like any other, but this time something unusual happened. His dog suddenly ran to the base of an oak tree and started enthusiastically digging in the ground. After a while, Roberto's dog uncovered a lump of earth with a strange shape. Observing that the dog was sniffing the object as if it were attracted to it, Roberto decided to check it out. When he picked up the unusual lump, it emitted a distinct and strong fragrance. Its uniqueness left him amazed, and he believed it was something special. So he wrapped it up and took it home for further investigation. Roberto later contacted a well-known restaurant in the area to ask experts for a test. After carefully examining the object, the chefs confirmed that it was indeed the famous white truffle. This rare mushroom is typically found in luxury restaurants, and each pound of it can be worth several $100,000 or even $1 million. When Roberto learned this, he was shocked to find such a treasure in the forest during the day. It is known that there have been many truffle auctions worldwide. In one auction in 2021, an 1.83 pounds white truffle sold for over $110,000. A few years ago, 11 white truffles from Alba, Italy, weighing about 2.2 pounds, were sold for around $320,000. Truffles are often called mysterious mushrooms because there are no obvious signs to tell humans they exist, as they are hidden deep in dark soil layers. For a long time, the French have praised truffles as the diamond of the kitchen. Many believe that truffles have an addictive quality due to their enticing fragrance. People have tried to describe truffles as having a slightly musty smell, like garlic, with hints of earth, onions, meat, or even the scent of a lover's body. This demonstrates that truffles are one of the most expensive mushrooms in the world and are considered a drug in the culinary world. One 800-year-old emperor's ancient tomb palace. A ceramic item resembling a basin has helped Chinese scientists identify a mysterious area containing over 100 ancient tombs they excavated, which turned out to be an unimaginable archaeological treasure. The basin, with a diameter of about 24 inches and a depth of 10 inches, was engraved with special inscriptions, helping to identify the owner of the mysterious ancient tombs in Henan Province, China. The tombs belong to Emperor Liu Ji of the Han Dynasty, also known as Emperor Huan of Han, who ruled during the 2nd century CE. Dr. Wang Xianqiu from the Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology in Luoyang, who led the excavation project, stated that this discovery allowed them to connect many ancient texts and other evidence found at the tomb site, confirming the noble owner of the tomb complex and revealing that what they found was an unimaginable archaeological treasure, a lavish palace built exclusively for the deceased. The ancient tomb complex was first discovered in 2017. Since then, archaeologists have found over 100 tombs. More remarkably, this complex is part of a large complex with many houses, roads, wells, drainage systems, and numerous luxurious items. Even the scientists were surprised when finding a simple ceramic basin during the excavation, which changed the entire direction of the search. The fact that the tomb's owner was an emperor indicated that the complex was a palace built solely for the deceased, with houses meant for concubines, guards, and tomb managers. These individuals would also be buried there after death to continue serving the emperor in the afterlife. Emperor Huan of Han, Liu Ji, had a short life, passing away at the age of 35. It is believed that the unique ancient tomb palace was built by his successor for him. Dead Vley, the Dead Swamp. In the Namib Naukluft Park in the Namib Desert, there exists a gigantic graveyard of dead trees, known as Dead Vley. The name Dead Vley comes from two languages, English and Dutch. It translates to a dead swamp. At Dead Vley, all we can see are the remnants of dry, dead trees. An ancient legend says that two gods fought each other, and the victorious god created towering sand dunes surrounding Dead Vley, cursing the land to never see life again. Due to this curse, for the past 900 years, almost no living creature has been able to survive in Dead Vley. However, many believe this is just a fictional tale. From a geological perspective, the sandstone platform is surrounded by the tallest sand dunes in the world, ranging from 1,150 to 1,112 feet high. The dust of this clay pan was formed when the Sashab River overflowed and flooded the area. This created shallow waters, ideal conditions for acacia trees and camel thorn trees to grow and thrive. But around 900 to 1,000 years ago, the area went through a severe drought. The shifting sand dunes gradually moved toward the pan, blocking the river's flow. Groundwater dried up, and the rain wasn't enough to soak into the ground. Trees are rare to find in the desert, but instead, there are unique oases. Sometimes, the water sources in the desert dried up to the point where even signs of life disappeared, and the trees withered from a lack of water. Only a few plant species survived, thanks to morning fog or rare rainfall. The skeletons of the acacia trees are estimated to have been dead for more than 900 years. Despite this, their twisted branches with wrinkled bark still stand tall against the occasional winds sweeping through the desert. Contrary to what we might think, the trees didn't become fossils. Although their organic materials have gradually been replaced by minerals, they were instead burned by the sun, turning black as coal. The area is so dry that even the wood cannot decompose. Therefore, it could be said that the trees in Deadvlei were dried out rather than fossilized. Nevertheless, life still exists in Deadvlei. There are beetles, spring hares, ostriches, antelopes, and a few other animals. The survival of these animals and plants is made possible by the morning mist that sweeps in from the Atlantic Ocean, miles away. One undeniable fact is that Deadvlei attracts many photographers who are willing to endure a difficult and challenging journey just to capture stunning and mesmerizing images of this majestic place. Ancient 13-ton supermonster remains. Israeli archaeologists have recently uncovered an incredible fossilized tusk measuring 8.2 feet in length, the remains of an ancient creature known as the straight-tusked elephant, which went extinct 400,000 years ago but was a close ancestor of modern elephants. However, even when standing next to an elephant, especially the largest African elephants, this ancient creature would still appear as a super monster with a height of up to 13 feet, a weight of 13 tons, and tusks extending 8.2 feet. Modern elephants, which include African elephants and Asian elephants, weigh around 13,200 pounds for African elephants and around 6,600 to 8,800 pounds for Asian elephants. Despite its grandeur, this massive tusk is now being handled by paleontologists with great care, as it could experience a phenomenon akin to evaporating into the sky from fairy tales. Despite being intact for hundreds of thousands of years, the tusk could immediately begin to decompose if exposed to light and air. According to a research team led by the Israel Antiquities Authority and Tel Aviv University, these supermonsters inhabited the area for approximately 800,000 years before suddenly going extinct 400,000 years ago. The specimen found is estimated to be 500,000 years old and is the largest complete fossilized tusk ever excavated in Israel and the entire Near East. Dr. Ionir Milevsky from the Israel Antiquities Authority stated that during an archaeological excavation a few years ago, they found various bones, including parts of a skull, ribs, and teeth, along with human-made artifacts such as axes and cutting tools. The discovery of the tusk, completely separated from the skull, led scientists to suspect that ancient humans, likely a different species, as Homo sapiens had not yet appeared, hunted and killed this super monster and its kin. This suggests that the site could be a treasure trove of archaeological secrets waiting to be unraveled by scientists and archaeologists. The Sleeping Beauty's grave in the forest. Recently, archaeologists have uncovered a 2,000-year-old tomb belonging to the Sleeping Beauty of the forest. Thought to only exist in fairy tales, the ancient tomb was found after 2 weeks of excavation in the ancient city of Aksum, now located in Ethiopia, along with exquisite artifacts dating back to the 1st and 2nd centuries. The woman was found lying on her side, resting her chin on her hand, with an impressive copper ring on her finger. She was buried with her face turned toward a Roman-style mirror, a sign that she may have been an exceptionally beautiful woman in life, admired by many. Along with the mirror, cosmetics and valuable jewelry were also buried with her. During the excavation, her remains were well preserved, likely because the people of that time had found a way to preserve bodies for burial. The Aksumite dynasty, whose capital was the ancient city of Aksum, was a powerful force in northern Ethiopia during the early Christian era, lasting from approximately 100 to 940 AD. The dynasty peaked in the 1st century and played a central role in the trade route connecting the Roman Empire with ancient India. Aksum was also the city of the legendary Queen of Sheba and the heart of the Aksumite civilization, one of the greatest ancient civilizations of the world. Aksum ruled the Red Sea coast until the end of the 9th century. Timeless treasure, 3,300-year-old discovery. Recently, a digger working at the Palmachim Beach National Park in Israel accidentally uncovered a tomb that archaeologists have referred to as a time capsule. The term time capsule is commonly used by archaeologists to describe special discoveries where part of the ancient world is preserved intact and orderly, just as it once was. The archaeological treasure found at Palmachim Beach National Park is a prime example of this. This timeless tomb contains numerous distinctive artifacts placed in accordance with ancient burial rituals from 300 years ago. It was intricately built by carving into the rock to create a cave, where ancient people placed valuable ceramic and bronze items to serve the afterlife of the deceased. While the tomb shows signs of having been looted, the artifacts are still arranged relatively neatly, much like they were during the ancient burial rituals. Ancient pottery is one of the types of treasures that scientists highly value, as it often provides extensive details about the craftsmanship of the local people from that period, the cultural traits, and even interesting rituals or customs, as expressed through carvings or ancient inscriptions. The pottery found in this tomb includes traditional two-handled jars, deep bowls, shallow bowls, footed cups, some of which were imported from the coast of Lebanon, and others from Tyre, Sidon, and other ancient ports along the coast of Lebanon and Israel. Thus, they also represent a snapshot of ancient commerce. Dr. Eli Yanai from the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, said, "The items in the cave date back to the 13th century BC, the end of the Late Bronze Age 2B. During this period, under the rule of Pharaoh Ramses II of Egypt, the Egyptian Empire controlled Canaan, providing safe conditions for international trade. In addition, the tomb also contains other valuable artifacts such as lamps, bronze arrowheads, and human remains, stored in two rectangular compartments at the corner of the cave. The number of burial items in the tomb could be even greater, before it was disturbed by tomb robbers. However, the tomb robbery likely occurred centuries ago, after which the cave was sealed and remained undisturbed during recent periods. This provides a great opportunity for scientists to apply modern scientific methods to extract information from the artifacts as well as any remaining organic materials. Despite this, scientists believe that the tomb still offers enough to provide a timeless, complete picture of the customs and rituals of the Late Bronze Age. Archaeologists discover a 500-year-old shipwreck in the desert, but what's inside shocked them. In 1533, a mysterious event shook the maritime world. A ship carrying gold, precious gems, and treasures vanished without a trace while en route to India. The ship not only lost millions in material wealth, but also carried with it the fate of its entire crew. However, no one could have predicted that nearly 500 years later, a chance discovery in a dry desert would unravel all the mysteries of this ship. The Portuguese ship named the Bom Jesus was believed to have carried a massive treasure, including gold, precious gems, and countless valuable artifacts. It set sail from Portugal in 1533, but never reached its destination. While many theories were proposed, the disappearance of this ship remains one of the greatest mysteries in maritime history. It wasn't until 2008 when a group of diamond hunters accidentally found traces of the ship in an unexpected location, the Namibian desert, thousands of miles away from the coast. The story of the Bom Jesus seemed to have faded into oblivion until a team of diamond miners from the Namdeb Diamond Company was working in the Namibian desert. As they dug through the dense sand of this dry land, strange pieces of wood and metal began to surface. Unbelievably, they immediately called Dr. Dieter Nolli, a famous scientist from South Africa. With Dr. Nolli's guidance, the excavators quickly realized that the Namibian desert had once been a bustling coastline, frequently affected by massive storms. This led them to speculate that finding a shipwreck here wasn't so surprising. Excavations officially began soon after. After a week of intense work, archaeologists and excavators made a remarkable discovery. They found a treasure trove filled with gold coins. In just 45 minutes of excavation, they recovered 24 pounds of gold coins, a huge amount never before seen in other excavations. These coins, after analysis, were determined to have been minted around 1525 to 1538, matching the time frame when the Bom Jesus sank. The treasure not only contained gold, but also featured many other valuable artifacts. Archaeologists found copper bowls, copper ingots, more than 50 pieces of ivory, ancient astronomical tools, compasses, swords, and many other items, including firearms crafted 500 years ago. Notably, Portuguese silver coins were also found in pristine condition. In total, more than 5,400 artifacts were unearthed from the shipwreck site, including over 2,000 gold coins. By this time, the archaeologists realized that this wasn't just any ship. It was the Bomb Jesus, the legendary ship that historians had long dreamed of finding. The gold coins, ivory, and other artifacts were evidence of the wealth and mystery the ship carried. This discovery not only solved one of the greatest maritime mysteries, but also raised new questions about ancient ships, daring ocean voyages, and lost treasures that may never be found. The treasure of the Bomb Jesus was not just material wealth, but also proof of the power and influence of the Portuguese Empire in the 16th century. The story of the Bomb Jesus and its treasure will surely continue to captivate generations of researchers, treasure hunters, and history enthusiasts. This is one of the rare mysteries that modern science and technology have been able to unravel, bringing unexpected answers. And even though more than 500 years have passed, the story of this legendary ship will live on, a testament to a golden age of maritime exploration and endless adventures. This is indeed an impressive archaeological discovery, isn't it? But you might not imagine that the world still holds countless more remarkable discoveries like this. Huge treasures buried beneath the sea, millennia-old ruins suddenly revealed in the sand, and even perfectly preserved mummies and remains, all of which hold fascinating stories behind them. And I'm about to share them with you now. Let's continue watching. The airplane, resting at the bottom of a lake for 60 years. In the summer of 2004, in the icy lands of Russia's Arctic Circle, a fisherman made an unexpected discovery. When sunlight penetrated the crystal-clear waters of Lake Mart Yavor, he saw blurred outlines covered in silt, signs that something lay quietly beneath. As the diving team approached, they were stunned to find an intact Bell P-39 Airacobra fighter plane resting at the lake's bottom at a depth of about 16 feet, buried in fine mud up to the tips of its propeller blades. The P-39 was not just a remnant of war, it was a time machine, preserving memories buried for over half a century. Miraculously preserved by the fine mud, the plane retained its almost complete shape. The rescue team took advantage of the rare favorable weather conditions, using airbags, a truck winch, and a tripod to raise it from the water. But when they reached the cockpit, an eerie silence enveloped them. Both cockpit doors were sealed. This was completely contrary to the emergency procedure when an aircraft lands on water, as at least one door should have been opened for the pilot to escape. Then, the heartbreaking truth was confirmed. The pilot's remains were still inside. He had been there for 60 years, unknown to anyone. By October 2004, the pilot was buried with full military honors in the Valley of Glory, closing a quiet yet sacred chapter. Another detail that particularly surprised researchers was the condition of the plane. Although a small section on the right wing was missing and magnesium parts like the wheel axles and engine cam covers had deteriorated over time, the P-39 was still incredibly impressive overall. Additionally, an interesting detail was that the 0.5-inch machine guns mounted on the wings had been removed, though it remains unclear why. But the biggest surprise came from the ammunition compartment, where the excavation team discovered 6 cans of American stew. The old canned goods, still intact, contained pork, lard, onions, and seasonings, likely a soldier's field meal from the frozen front lines. Not only that, but the most significant discovery was the maintenance logbook left in a document box near the right wing door. Although some pages had rotted away, most of the content was still legible. Thanks to this, the pilot's identity, flight milestones, maintenance schedules, and even the P-39's final missions were verified. It was as if the airplane was telling its story after decades of silence. The Bell P-39 was not just a war machine. It was like a letter sent backward through time, recounting stories of courage, sacrifice, and the people who silently contributed to writing history. No one knows exactly what happened in those final moments, in the thick Arctic skies. All that is known is that the pilot never left the cockpit, and the airplane became a cold iron tomb, keeping him among the desolate wilderness. But thanks to the chance of fate and the dedication of those who love history, his identity was restored. The remains were laid to rest, and the airplane was restored, not just as an artifact, but as a living symbol of memories that will never fade. In today's world, where everything moves quickly and memories can easily be forgotten, the story of the P-39 resting at the bottom of Lake Mart Yaver, reminds us that every sacrifice deserves to be remembered. Whether it's a missing pilot, an airplane thought to be lost forever, or even the faded pages of a logbook, their stories all help illuminate a past that still lives on. 900 bottles of rare French wine at the bottom of the sea. In 2019, a special journey quietly began in the heart of the Baltic Sea. This wasn't a quest to hunt for treasures of gold and silver or the wrecks of majestic warships, but rather the pursuit of a royal gift that had been buried for centuries. The goal was the wreck of a cargo ship that sank during World War I, carrying 900 bottles of rare French wine, originally sent to serve the last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II. According to historical records, the ship set sail from France in the early 20th century, carrying high-end barrels of wine, symbols of luxury, power, and friendship between the two nations. However, fate had other plans. While heading toward Russian waters, the ship was sunk by a German submarine, carrying the royal gift to the deep ocean floor and vanishing from human memory for nearly a century. It wasn't until 1999 that the wreck was discovered by chance. However, due to the harsh conditions and the scale of the operation, recovery efforts were delayed for almost 20 years. It wasn't until Sweden, Russia, and Finland collaborated that the operation finally took off. In 2019, exactly 100 years after the fall of the Romanov dynasty, the last of the vintage bottles of wine were brought to the surface. Inside the intact cargo hold were 600 bottles of spirits and 300 bottles of sweet wine, all miraculously preserved under layers of cold mud and salt water. But what shocked collectors and historians was not just their age, but the legendary origin of each drop of wine. Notably, the sweet wine is believed to have been crafted by French monks over 500 years ago, following a secret recipe passed down only through word of mouth. Each bottle was not just a masterpiece of flavor, but also a historical gem, encapsulating the story of an era of empires, royal diplomacy, and the shadows of war that abruptly severed all connections. Experts estimate the value of each bottle at tens of thousands of dollars, but more valuable than their material worth, for history lovers, is the story behind them. It is a gift that was never delivered, a dynasty that fell, and a message from the past, preserved not in books, but in every drop of wine that had rested on the ocean floor for more than a century. Mysterious yet impressive, isn't it? The ancient Baalbek ruins and its gigantic stone blocks. In the land of modern-day Lebanon, nestled beneath the towering mountains, lies an ancient architectural complex that has amazed the world, the ruins of Baalbek. Situated over 3,780 feet above sea level, Baalbek is not merely an archaeological site, but also an unsolvable historical puzzle. The most remarkable feature of this site is the Temple of Jupiter, one of the greatest constructions ever built during the Roman Empire. The temple is not only colossal in its architecture, but also astonishing because its foundation is placed on 3 massive stone blocks, each weighing up to 880 tons, equivalent to the weight of over 130 full-grown elephants. But the oddities don't stop there. About a mile from the temple, at an ancient quarry, archaeologists discovered an unmovable stone block known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Measuring 70 feet long, 20 feet wide, and at least 18 feet high, it is estimated to weigh around 1,815 tons, making it the largest stone block ever mined by humans in history. This number far exceeds the technical limits of ancient times, and even our capabilities today. Modern calculations suggest that to lift this colossal stone off the ground would require at least 25 heavy-duty cranes. And that's just the first step. Moving at hundreds of meters across rugged terrain is nearly impossible. If human strength was used, it would take about 60,000 workers simultaneously, a completely unrealistic number given the space around the stone. So the biggest question remains, how did ancient people accomplish this? What technology did they have? Or is this evidence of a lost civilization that was far beyond the understanding of modern humanity? The Stone of the Pregnant Woman still rests in its original position, tilted about 30 degrees to the ground, with its tail buried in the earth as if left unfinished. Did the ancients miscalculate their ability to transport it? Or did they possess a technique that modern humans still cannot comprehend? If we say that Baalbek is not only an ancient monument but also a challenge across time, I think it would not be an exaggeration. The 1,000-year-old villa, holding a treasure. This story began when Luke decided to dig up his garden to install electrical cables in his old shed. Little did he know, during his work, he accidentally uncovered a historic structure dating back between 1500 and 2000 years, right under the land where he had been living. This Roman villa, built around 175 to 220 AD, had undergone several renovations until the middle of the 4th century. According to archaeologists, this villa likely belonged to a Roman noble family, possibly with 3 stories and a length of about 300 feet. The villa was not merely an architectural structure, but also a treasure trove filled with valuable artifacts, offering immense research value. After the discovery, Luke Irwin immediately alerted the authorities, and experts quickly arrived on the scene. They spent up to 8 days digging, studying, and excavating the area. Despite being located at a significant depth underground, the villa had been remarkably preserved by nature, retaining many ancient artifacts, including coins, pottery, jewelry, and even the bones of animals that had been hunted during the Roman period. One of the most astonishing discoveries was the coffin of a Roman child. This find is particularly important because in previous Roman villas excavated elsewhere, items related to children are extremely rare. Additionally, the researchers also found oyster shells, a clear sign that the villa's owners were wealthy, as oysters were a delicacy reserved for the upper classes of Roman society. Dr. David Roberts, a renowned archaeologist in the UK, emphasized the significance of this discovery for archaeological history. According to him, Roman villas found in Britain are rarely so well preserved, and they always provide invaluable insights into the lifestyle, culture, and prosperity of ancient Rome. Notably, this villa contained artifacts from the Roman period, as well as items from the post-Roman and pre-Saxon eras, providing a comprehensive view of societal changes through the ages. This discovery is truly groundbreaking, not only for history enthusiasts, but for anyone fascinated by the wonders hidden beneath the Earth's surface. The discovery of a Roman villa right in the backyard of an individual serves as proof that history can often be right next to us, just waiting to be uncovered. The Secret Passage in Peru, revealing 19 mysterious 750-year-old wooden statues. In 2018, during what seemed like a routine excavation in Peru, archaeologists unexpectedly discovered a secret passage that had been buried for centuries. However, what stunned the team was not the architecture of the passage, but the strange wooden statues lined up along both sides, with hollow eyes and eerie forms that were chilling to behold. According to the Peruvian Ministry of Culture, these statues are 750 years old and belong to the pre-Columbian civilization of the Chimu, which flourished along the central and northern coast of Peru from the 12th to the 15th century. These statues were not just works of art, but were considered embodiments of deities, symbols of power, and religious rituals in the ancient city of Chan, one of the largest power centers in South America at the time. Chan was unlike any other city. It was the largest city in the world, made entirely from adobe, with grand architecture divided into 9 citadels, surrounded by towering walls of earth that seemed to conceal a whole civilization within. At its peak, Chan was the largest commercial and political center of the Chimu, a wealthy, sophisticated society with an extraordinary organizational system. However, all of that came to an end when the mighty Inca Empire descended and conquered Chan around 1470. A civilization that once stood on par with the Incas vanished, leaving behind the ruins of a glorious era that only survives today through collapsed walls, hidden passages, and especially the 19 mysterious wooden statues recently discovered. To this day, what puzzles researchers is the true meaning of these statues. Why were they placed in a secret passage? Could this have been a ceremonial space for the priests? Or was it a gateway to a sacred area that the Chimu once revered? Each statue, handcrafted and depicting different faces, seems to convey a unique message or story, waiting to be deciphered after centuries of silence. Chan, with its pristine adobe beauty and the spirit of its ancestors, still holds many secrets that remain untold. And these 750-year-old statues might just be the key to unlocking a new chapter of history, a chapter that modern humanity has only just begun to touch, yet still does not fully comprehend. The strange fossil of 2 monsters entwined. A recent study from the University of California, Davis, discovered a strange fossil of two creatures entwined with each other. A marine lizard fossil resembling a giant dolphin, which contained the fossil of another sea reptile almost the same size. According to scientists, the creature in question is a Guizhouichthyosaurus, measuring 15 feet in length, with a shape resembling that of a giant dolphin. This species appeared in the oceans around the early Triassic period, following the Great Permian extinction. The fossil is about 240 million years old. Inside the enormous creature's belly was a Xinpusaurus xingiensis without a head, belonging to the group of thalattosaurs. This species had many features similar to ancient lizards, but much larger, growing up to 12 feet in length and possessing 4 paddle-like limbs. Based on the dental structure of similar specimens, experts say this species primarily hunted small, soft animals in the ocean, such as ancient squid. The fossil shows that the stomach acid of the sea creature could not fully digest the enormous meal. It likely tore the prey into smaller parts, but still tried to swallow a large piece that included the entire body and part of the tail, leading to the digestive issues. The ichthyosaur had relatively dull teeth, and earlier studies concluded that this species could not have eaten large animals. However, according to Professor Montani, a paleontologist at the University of California, Davis, now we can seriously consider that this species did eat large animals, despite its dull teeth. Many scientific studies suggest that they didn't necessarily need sharp teeth to eat meat, and their discoveries prove that assumption wrong. Clearly, this sea monster was able to devour enormous meals with its dull teeth. The bizarre fossil was unearthed in a quarry in southwest China in 2010, but recently became the focus of research in a report published in iScience. To preserve its intact condition, the specimen of the two entwined creatures is now kept in its original form at the Xingyi Geological Park Museum in China. 150. Strange objects from 1.4 million years ago of Homo erectus. In an excavation at the Ubaydiyah site in northern Israel, one of the oldest locations related to human presence outside of Africa, archaeologists were stunned to discover 150 limestone objects with perfect spherical shapes, seemingly dating back 1.4 million years. These were not natural stones. They were intentionally shaped, remarkably round, with a symmetry that modern humans only began to appreciate in art or geometry millions of years later. But the question remains, who made them and why? Experts believe that the creators of these objects were Homo erectus, or upright man. This species was our ancient ancestor, living in a half-human, half-ape form, with a face still quite primitive, but with the ability to walk upright and notably use simple tools. However, the appearance of these perfect spherical stones has shaken previous assumptions about the technical skills and cognitive development of early humans. According to Dr. Antoine Muller from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, researchers are still in heated debate. Some suggest that these objects were tools used to break large stones, thus having an applicational purpose. Others suspect they may represent an early form of aesthetic thinking or even a form of pre-art. What baffles archaeologists the most is that 1.4 million years ago, humans were still in an extremely primitive stage. According to all previous theories, we were only making sharp stone tools for cutting and had not yet developed the ability to create complex geometric shapes like perfect spheres. So, did Homo erectus evolve faster than we thought? Or is this evidence of a form of intellectual development that we have never documented before? It is also possible that these early humans unintentionally created these stones through experimentation, not fully understanding what they were doing. Regardless of the hypothesis, the stone spheres at Ubaydiyah remain an unsolved mystery, a distant message from our distant past. In an era where science seems capable of unlocking all mysteries, the existence of these 1.4 million-year-old objects serves as a reminder that there is still much about our ancestors that the modern world has yet to understand. The 3,500-year-old temple and the mystery of child sacrifice in Peru. In the waters of Huanchaquito, Peru, archaeologists recently discovered a 3,500-year-old temple, revealing remnants of an ancient, mysterious, and somewhat eerie culture. Thought to belong to the first fishermen of the Gramalot village, this temple provides clear evidence that they were not merely coastal dwellers, but also had a highly complex spiritual life. Previously, researchers believed that this community hadn't developed enough to have their own dedicated places of worship and instead had to travel for hours to reach the large temples in the region. However, this groundbreaking discovery has overturned that assumption. It turns out they had their own temple, right within their living area. When the excavation area was expanded, the research team discovered an open central corridor, designed with steps that may have served as a ceremonial platform where sacrificial or prayer rituals were conducted in front of the entire community. Behind the corridor were more personal spaces connected by long halls, indicating a hierarchical structure within the temple, which could symbolize a division of power in the society of that time. Another interesting detail was the remains of reed pipes, suggesting that the temple's roof may have been made from this primitive material. This not only reflects an adaptation to the climate, but also provides insight into the construction techniques of the indigenous civilization thousands of years ago. What stunned the scientific community even more was the discovery of 3 child skeletons within the temple complex. These remains suggest that child sacrifice, an action both mystical and brutal, may have been an integral part of the Gramilote people's religious practices. Why were children chosen as sacrifices? Were they selected for their sacred significance, or to ask for good harvests and peace from the sea? Although there is no definitive answer yet, it is clear that the newly uncovered ancient temple has ignited a global debate in the archaeological community. In the sands of time, some stories are still waiting to be told, and this 3,500-year-old temple is one of the most mysterious chapters in Peru's history that has only recently begun to be unraveled. The 3,800-year-old Pyramid of Asia. When we think of pyramids, we typically picture massive structures in the deserts of Egypt or the jungles of Central America. But did you know that in the vast plains of eastern Kazakhstan, there exists an ancient structure with a unique and extraordinary shape that is leaving archaeologists around the world stunned? Yes, this is a 3,800-year-old pyramid, built by an ancient civilization that once thrived in Central Asia. What makes this pyramid particularly remarkable is its shape, which is completely different from those of Egypt or the Maya. Instead of a square base like the Egyptian pyramids or a step design like the Mayan pyramids, the Kazakhstan pyramid has a regular hexagonal base, a rare and extremely mysterious design in the ancient world. According to Dr. Ulan Umitkaliev, head of the Department of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Eurasian National University, this structure was built using stone, with massive megaliths weighing up to 2,200 pounds placed at each corner, demonstrating the incredible organizational and building skills of the people at that time. Although the roof is no longer intact, the presence of a large artificial mound above it leads researchers to believe that this may have been a type of pyramid used as a tomb for the elite, similar to the function of the Egyptian pyramids. Inside the structure is a stone maze about 10 feet high, leading to the center, where an ancient tomb is located, likely belonging to a leader or a person of high status in the society. Even more astonishing are the intricately carved stone walls, depicting familiar animals from the steppe, such as camels and horses, creatures closely tied to the nomadic life in the region. The archaeologists also found numerous burial goods, including jewelry and ancient pottery, suggesting that the people of this area had a well-developed jewelry-making craft. While they cannot definitively confirm the presence of human remains, the tomb structure and the arrangement of the stones provide enough evidence to paint a picture of a well-organized society with profound spiritual beliefs dating back nearly 4 millennia. The inhabitants of this land are thought to have been skilled livestock herders living in large communities, capable of constructing monumental stone structures, leaving a distinct mark through pyramids that are only now beginning to be uncovered. The 3,800-year-old Pyramid of Asia is not just an archaeological wonder, but also an important piece in understanding a forgotten civilization in the heart of the Central Asian steppe. The ghost ship exposed in the desert. Imagine you're lost in the vast desert of Uzbekistan, where the sand flies like a storm and the sun scorches everything in its path. Suddenly, amidst this desolate scene, an image that leaves you stunned appears. A rusty ship, abandoned alone in the dry sea of sand, as if it has wandered off from some distant ocean and run aground in an unfamiliar world. But no, this is not a dream, but the painful remnants of the Aral Sea, a once proud inland sea of Central Asia. At its peak, the Aral Sea was one of the largest lakes in the world, covering nearly 27,000 square miles. It was once a bustling center of economic and social activity, with a thriving fishing industry that supported the livelihoods of tens of thousands of people in the surrounding areas. The ships that once sailed across its waters now lie as zombies, abandoned on the cracked, dry land. The cause of this tragedy was not natural, but rather the result of bold yet unsustainable decisions made by humans. In the 1940s, the Soviet government initiated a large-scale project to divert water from the Amu Darya and Syr Darya rivers, the two main sources of water for the Aral Sea, to irrigate vast cotton-growing regions in the desert. From there, the nightmare began. In just a few decades, the water level of the Aral Sea dropped dramatically, by 8 inches per year in the 1960s, 24 inches per year in the 1970s, and a record 36 inches per year in the 1980s. By the time people realized what was happening, it was too late. The water receded, the fish died off, the ecosystem collapsed, and the entire fishing industry, which once fed thousands, disappeared without a trace. By 1991, when Uzbekistan gained independence from the Soviet Union, there were glimmers of hope for revival. A small amount of water began to return, but the joy was short-lived. Chemicals from agriculture, used indiscriminately for decades, had seeped into the soil and water, making the surrounding land toxic. The people began to face terrible consequences like poisoning, tuberculosis, cancer, and an uncertain future. In response to the disaster, the international community began to act. In 2005, a large dam was built to restore the northern part of the lake, helping raise the water level, reduce salinity, and allow life to return. Some fish species have returned, a few fishing ports have been restored, and hope began to rekindle in the eyes of the people. But much of the Aral Sea remains a faint memory, with ghost ship graveyards lying still on the hot sand. Even United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon once referred to it as one of the worst environmental disasters of our time. Indeed, the Aral Sea is not just a loss of resources, but also a harsh warning to all of humanity about the cost of manipulating nature without long-term consideration. The rusted ships exposed in the desert today no longer sail, but they still tell a story about a sea that once was, a mistake that once occurred, and an opportunity we must not let slip away again. The Shattered Skeletons. The village of Warham-Percy, located in North Yorkshire, England, was once a bustling and thriving settlement during the 12th and 14th centuries. However, in the 16th century, the village was suddenly abandoned and faded into obscurity. Recently, archaeologists excavated the area and discovered broken skeletons, sparking much curiosity and questioning. But what is particularly noteworthy is that this was not an accident. According to researchers, there is a very special reason behind it. During the medieval period, stories of the undead or zombies were not uncommon. It was believed that people who died from serious crimes could return from the grave, wandering the village, spreading disease, and attacking the living. Therefore, dealing with these walking dead was a significant concern in society at the time. The method to prevent these mobile corpses was to destroy their bodies. Archaeologists found skeletons broken into pieces in the village, an action that, according to research, was intended to prevent the deceased from coming back to life. But that's not all. Experts also discovered that some of these bodies showed signs of being burned before being dismembered. This suggests that these individuals may have been suspected of being dangerous and needed to be eradicated to protect the community. Studies also indicate that most of the victims were locals, making the story even more intriguing. Could it be that the villagers had to protect themselves from threats posed by the deceased? And were these myths real, or simply a delusion born from the extreme fear of people during that time? These discoveries not only help us understand more about medieval beliefs and superstitions, but they also raise big questions about life, death, and how we view resurrection. Warham-Percy, with its shattered skeletons, is not just an archaeological site, but also a mysterious tale about humanity's fear of the afterlife. Ancient crocodile fossil as big as a bus. In the dry Sahara Desert, where everything seems still and silent, an extraordinary discovery has changed our understanding of the prehistoric era. Paleontologists in Tunisia have recently uncovered an incredibly impressive fossil, the remains of an ancient crocodile species, far larger than the modern crocodiles we typically see. What's truly astonishing is that this crocodile was not only huge, but also completely unknown to the scientific community until now. This prehistoric crocodile, named Machimosaurus rex, has been described by researchers as gigantic. And indeed, it was truly massive, measuring over 30 feet long and weighing as much as 6,600 pounds. Just its skull was more than 5 feet long. Imagine a crocodile almost the size of a bus, making this creature not only a formidable predator, but also a dominant force in the prehistoric food chain. Researchers believe that Machimosaurus rex was a super powerful crocodile that ruled the seas and wetlands it inhabited around 130 million years ago. This discovery was published in the journal Cretaceous Research, with Federico Fonti, a researcher from the University of Bologna, contributing to the study. Fonti shared that the finding of this giant crocodile fossil has completely changed how we view life in the prehistoric period. According to Fonti, this crocodile was likely an ambush predator or scavenger, a trait that would have made it a notorious hunter in the ancient animal world. With its incredibly strong bite, Machimosaurus rex could easily crush its prey, and hard-shelled turtles were probably one of its favorite meals. But the story doesn't stop there. This discovery also solves a significant mystery in the history of biology. Crocodile species belonging to the group that Machimosaurus rex is part of were thought to have gone extinct 150 million years ago, at the end of the Jurassic period. However, the fossil of Machimosaurus rex reveals a surprising truth. This crocodile species survived the Great Extinction, meaning it lived around 130 million years ago, far longer than previously believed. This has led researchers to reconsider theories about the extinction event that was once thought to have wiped out all large species, including crocodiles. Could current theories about the Great Extinction be wrong? And are there other species that survived the devastating storm of that era, continuing to live and evolve mysteriously in hidden corners of Earth? Scientists now need to re-examine geological history and ancient species to better understand what happened at the end of the Jurassic period and the major ecological changes that took place at that time. This discovery is not only a crucial milestone in paleontology, but also opens up many new research opportunities. 2,000-year-old Roman city, beneath a construction site. Imagine walking through a modern construction site in southern France, and perhaps you'd never expect that beneath the earth and broken bricks lies a historical treasure more than 2,000 years old. But recently, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of an ancient Roman city named Usitia, deep beneath the ground in Uzes, an area known for its historical landmarks. This truly remarkable discovery opens a door to the glorious past of the Roman Empire. Before this discovery was recognized, Usitia only existed in history books through an inscription in Nîmes, an important Roman outpost. Historians had only a vague knowledge of the city, with no physical evidence to confirm its existence. However, during a recent excavation, the team unexpectedly found clear traces of the city, marking a new chapter in the study of Roman history. According to experts, Usitia was likely established around the 1st century BC and thrived until the 7th century. This coincides with the Roman Empire's golden age, when cities and outposts were expanded across territories from Italy to present-day France. Therefore, the discovery of Usitia not only sheds light on an important piece of history, but also provides valuable insights into the development of the Roman Empire during this period. One of the special findings from the excavation includes stunning mosaics. These mosaics were not just simple works of art, but also reflected the lifestyle, beliefs, and environment of the ancient Roman inhabitants. The intricate geometric patterns and images of animals such as deer, ducks, owls, and eagles on the mosaic tiles vividly demonstrate the Romans' cultural diversity and reverence for nature. Additionally, a house with a large collection of ceramic jars was also discovered. These jars were commonly used in Roman architecture to store food and household items. Notably, a room with a central heating system, known as a hypocaust, was also excavated. This advanced Roman technology used hot air circulating beneath the floor to warm buildings, a feat not achieved by all civilizations at the time. Archaeologists are continuing to excavate and study these findings. Although the area is now home to a boarding school established in 2019, no one can deny that what has been uncovered beneath the old earth is a priceless historical treasure, helping us better understand a bygone era and the remarkable achievements left by the Romans. With each excavation and discovery, we get closer to the glorious past of ancient empires, where remnants that seem to have been swallowed by time unexpectedly rise again, telling us fascinating and mysterious stories about a great civilization. 4 Roman swords. An ancient weapon cache from the Roman era has just been discovered in a remote cave in Israel. But behind these swords, the historical story holds many mysteries waiting to be solved. This armory was found in a small cave located within the En-Gedi Nature Reserve, a famous and extremely hard-to-reach site. The reserve lies on the western shore of the Dead Sea, a land full of mysterious stories and ancient historical traces. It seemed almost impossible for anyone to find this treasure, yet archaeologists bravely navigated the treacherous cliffs to uncover a piece of ancient history. So why were these Roman weapons hidden in such a mysterious cave? There is an intriguing theory proposed by researchers. They believe these weapons were the spoils of war from the Jewish rebels who rose up against the Roman Empire's rule. At that time, the Roman army had been attacked, and these swords may have been seized by the Jewish fighters after fierce battles. When discovered, these Roman swords were still well preserved. Archaeologists were astonished to find the blades sharp and intact, stored in wooden scabbards with intricately designed handles made of wood or metal. Notably, 3 of the swords had blades about 24 to 26 inches long, which is typical of the spatha sword, the standard weapon used by Roman soldiers. One remaining sword had a shorter blade, around 18 inches, which may have belonged to a lower-ranking soldier. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is the preservation process. After being carefully removed from the crevice in the cave, the team immediately transferred the swords to the laboratories of the Israel Antiquities Authority for analysis and conservation. Initial results suggest that these were standard swords used by Roman soldiers stationed in ancient Judea, a strategic and important region in Roman history. From these swords, we gain a clearer insight into the lives of Roman soldiers of the time, as well as the rebellions and tense battles between 2 powerful forces. These weapons are not only tools of war, but also serve as vivid evidence of the ongoing struggles that lasted for millennia. You might wonder, aside from these swords, what else could be hidden in caves and unexplored lands? Are there more historical secrets waiting for us to uncover? Although we may not have an exact answer to this question yet, discoveries like this certainly promise many more fascinating stories to explore in the future. Let's look forward to what archaeologists will unveil next. Dear friends, over the years, archaeology has brought us many surprises and mysteries, from ancient mystical temples and long-buried artifacts that suddenly reappear after centuries, to mysterious mummies, all of which hide a scary and mystical ritual behind them. Especially, there are many eerie situations that the field of archaeology has faced over the years of exploration. So, among the discoveries mentioned above, which one impressed you the most? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this video. Now thank you, and see you again soon.